let's be honest. We've all found ourselves raging at a referee's decision at some stage. This feel familiar?
That is an absolutely shocking decision.
They've got a case in that it was a bad decision.
It's such a poor decision.
Yeah, I think he's just made a bad decision in that instance.
But what does it take to get to the very top of football refereeing? Every referee starts with their county FA. It's a simple training course and you can take it as soon as you hit your 14th birthday. Once you've done that, you have to go through at least 11 hours of face-to-face training. You'll then graduate as a Level 7 official, which means you can take charge of county-level games. But hold your horses, there's still a long way to go to get to the Premier League. Your next step is to spend a year each at Levels 6, 5 and 4. This covers the top of the amateur game. Only at Level 3 do you start doing Northern Counties or Isthmian League level games, for example. If you've done this all quickly, you can reach Level 2 and ref your first National League match after, I don't know, 6 years? After getting enough experience at that level, you can apply to be a referee in the EFL. There's an interview, people watching you do games, and then, if the EFL are happy, you'll be granted a Level 1 licence to ref in games in League 2 and above. Now, they don't just say on you go to the Premier League, you have to work your way up through the divisions. Only after years of hard work and refereeing on cold Tuesday nights in Stoke can you be considered to do matches in some of Europe's very best stadiums. Now, who was the youngest to reach the very top? It was actually Michael Oliver. He reffed his first Premier League match in 2010 at the tender age of just 25. So if you want to follow in his footsteps, crack on. It'll only take you roughly a decade, thousands of hours of work and an incredibly thick skin. In total, there are 37,000 registered referees across England, but the PGMOL has only deemed 21 good enough for the top flight. That means there's not even a 1 in 1,000 chance you'll even make it in. Obviously, referees can make mistakes, but when you think about it, having a go at them is kind of like slating a brain surgeon.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Kickoff on talkSPORT. I am Hugh, Woozencroft, and we've got loads for you this evening. Over the next 3 hours, we're going to be live in Leipzig as the Crystal Palace faithful begin their descent on Saxony for the Conference League final. We'll have the latest on West Ham United. Should Nuno Espirito Santo stay or should he go after their relegation to the Championship? Spurs survived the drop. The club is making big promises, but do you believe they're going to learn the lessons of back-to-back 17th place finishes? We'll talk Arsenal as well, dreaming of European glory after their domestic success. Are they being underestimated ahead of their clash with Paris Saint-Germain? We'll look back on the playoff finals at Wembley. We'll give you our Premier League players and managers of the season as well. All that and more coming over the next 3 hours. This is Kickoff. Well, hello, good afternoon. I want to say I hope you're all enjoying the sunshine, but I'm not going to start with a gripe, but it feels too hot. I've just been out there, okay? It's very, very warm. Make sure you take care of yourselves. You check in on your elderly neighbours that maybe live alone because it is that hot at the moment. So hopefully you're finding a way a little bit in the shade to enjoy the sunshine this evening. The hottest May day that's ever been recorded, over 35 degrees Celsius, and a reported 1 million of you skived off of work today because of the sunshine, right? So if you have, I want you to let us know. What did you do with your day? And what was your excuse? What is your worst excuse for skiving off work, either today or any other time? I want the best excuses in the country. Drop us a text on 81089. You can always give us a call as well, 03717 223344. Be warned, you might give away your identity. So keep the text anonymous. I'll read them out. It is a very warm day, but I think we can enjoy a little bit of the sunshine into the evening now. Hopefully you're sitting in the garden with a beer, having a listen. Hello, good evening. I am Hugh, Woozencroft. We had a big weekend in the Premier League, an emotional weekend for many reasons in the Premier League after we said goodbye to Mo Salah and Andy Robertson. Of course, Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, two of their great players leaving the club in Bernardo Silva and John Stones as well. We got, I don't know, about half a dozen Guard of Honours as well. But the big headline of the weekend was always going to be that battle to stay in the Premier League. In the end, both Spurs and West Ham United won their games, but it was West Ham who were relegated from the Premier League after 14 years in the top flight. Now, reports today from The Guardian suggest that West Ham's board are split on Nuno Espirito Santo's future, which has actually opened up the possibility of him staying after their relegation from the Premier League. Now, Nuno was called in for crisis talks yesterday, a decision expected on his future before the end of the week. It remains likely that West Ham will part company with him, but the situation isn't as straightforward as first appeared, because The Guardian reports that one of their sources say that Daniel Kretinsky, the Czech billionaire, the club's second largest shareholder, actually wants Nuno to stay, while David Sullivan, the largest shareholder, is said to be less sure. Let's speak to Dan Lawless of West Ham Fan TV. Good evening.
Good evening, Hugh. Hope you're well, mate. Hope you're well.
Oh, my commiserations, Dan. 39 points wasn't enough to keep you in the league. Before we get to Nuno's future, has any of the kind of visceral anger from full-time maybe abated just a little bit?
I mean, it comes and goes. It comes and goes. My emotions are like a roller coaster. 1 minute it's anger, sadness, resignation, fear. You know, it's all over the place at the moment when it comes to West Ham.
I hope things go well from here on out. But when you hear stories like this today, before we even talk about Nuno and his future, the fact that the board are kind of divided on what's next, it scares me. I'm not a West Ham fan, but there was a half-decent chance you were going to get relegated for a pretty decent period of time during this Premier League campaign. The idea that there haven't been discussions between the members of the board on what Nuno's future should be for the last months, let alone weeks, and that the day after the relegation is confirmed, suddenly they've decided to have a chat about whether he should stay or whether he should go, boggles my mind. I don't know how you feel as a Hammers fan.
I mean, it sums up the mess that is West Ham that we've been in for the last few years, you know, going back to towards the end of Moyes' time, when we had a transfer committee of Moyes, Steidton, Sullivan, you know, and you've got people pulling in different directions. Now we have this board. The day after we've been relegated, you want swift and decisive action. That's what this club needs. However, you know, we're dilly-dallying and deliberating on should he stay, should he go, you know, and that is everything that's wrong with this football club. There is no one vision, a strong leadership. I look at someone like Forrest with Marinakis, whether you like him or not, he makes decisive action for the best of the football club. They had 4 managers that season, and ultimately his action kept him up. The manager weren't working out, sacked him. We don't do that. Now, the manager's relegated us, and we're wondering whether we should keep him or not. It's madness, and we're starting behind every other championship club now. And that's why I'm not so convinced that we'll come straight back up.
What do you think the club should do? What decision should they make? It's reported that they're not going to have to pay any compensation to Nuno Espirito Santo because of the relegation. He is also free to choose to leave the club if he wants as well. Obviously, after these discussions, neither of those two things has been enacted, not as yet anyway. What would you do if you were in that boardroom?
Sack him immediately. I would have sacked him at full time personally, because he came in September, was given a job, and he failed in that job, which was to keep us up. A lot of that by his own design. Now, we can point the flaws of recruitment, and structure of the club, but with the job he had, we were 2 points from safety when he come in, and we was exact same place when he left, and he threw away a lot of points. And a lot of reports are coming out now, being reported from The Athletic, about issues behind the scenes, isolating players, the way he's treated coaching staff, telling people he don't trust them. It's just really said to be frosty behind the scenes, and you don't want that. I would have sacked him immediately. I'm surprised he stayed, because we heard he might choose to leave, and his agent would feel that he's better than the Championship. But I guess not too many job offers will be coming knocking for him after that season.
West Ham's a big football club. It's a good job to have if you're Nuno Espirito Santo. I can understand him maybe mulling it over. The other thing is, there's an opportunity there possibly for him to actually rebuild the club completely. Aside from how much money West Ham may have to spend in the summer window, we know their finances are going to be massively impacted by relegation, but probably inside that boardroom, just to give the other side of it, there's got to be a feeling that who's going to be a better manager than Nuno Espirito Santo, who has had a good record. Well, you want to say a patchy record if you like, but he has had success at some of the clubs that he's been at. He's obviously had success, particularly with Wolves in the Championship. He's been there before. He's done it, won it before. And you think, actually, who gives you the best chance? Which manager would you appoint that, if you were to be promoted, of staying in the Premier League? Now, obviously, you can point to the fact you've just been relegated and say, well, Nuno's not that guy. But who else would you appoint who you could say definitely is? The reports are Gary O'Neill, former West Ham player, could be linked with the role. He's obviously at Strasbourg at the moment. Someone who's available. Scott Parker, 3 promotions from the Championship with 3 different clubs. Another former West Ham United player, strongly linked with the job as well. Neither of those two guarantee survival should West Ham get back to the Premier League. So how do they view it? What prism is it? Is it all about just getting back up and we'll worry about it when we get to the Premier League? Or can they take a longer term view?
I mean, getting out of that league is a priority first and foremost. So I think whatever manager we get, that they have to be able to do that first of all. However, I look at it and I think you get someone like Scott Parker, who I loved as a player, I'm not crazy about as a manager, but he's got a good track record of getting out of that league, not a good track record of keeping teams up. If you was to get him, but have a clause where we can just part ways once we're in the Premier League, I want to see us act ruthlessly. I wouldn't mind a Gary O'Neill, Gary O'Neill come in and I would have him better football. But Nuno, I just don't know whether he's the right fit for the club, to be honest with you. And look, it's the easy decision is to keep him. It's easy to keep him, have a little bit of, consistency over time. But, I mean, his signings, he was desperate for Traore. Brought him in, barely played him. The guy goes and gets injured. Nuno was reported to be really shocked that, how built he was, how jacked he was, which is shocking to me because that's what he's known for, Traore. He signed Pablo. He was insistent on signing Pablo, even though he had a hamstring injury. And he works hard, but I don't think he's a very good footballer. Tati, another one who is a decent player, but we've spent 50 million combined on Pablo and Tati, and they've not done enough to keep us up. So very huge doubts on Nuno when it comes to recruitment. So it's a stick or twist. That's where it comes down to. I would personally twist and sack him. Yeah,
I think it's a difficult one. Everyone knows I cover the EFL and watch a lot of football from the EFL, and I'd be concerned about West Ham United going down. They'll lose their best players, obviously. There'll be people in the market for the likes of Mateus Fernandes and Jared Bowen. I imagine with the financial situation that those two will probably leave the club. It would be a great sign from Bowen. We all want it to be a dream fairy tale where he says, don't worry, I'll stay. I'll keep plugging away and get you back into the Premier League and stay loyal. We know what his relationship is with the club and it's fantastic. But again, I think the money men at West Ham United are going to be saying this is one of our higher earners and this is one of the few players we can probably get a decent amount of money for. How sad would you be to see Jared Bowen leave the club? And do you think he will?
I'm sort of 50-50 on whether Bayern will go. I mean, you take him at the things that he said. I mean, he's not promised he will say, but he said a lot of encouraging things in his post-match about wanting to get the club back into the Premier League. Not all of it is in his hands. If the club choose to sell him, I'm sure he'll go. But yeah, it will be sad because he's given us six and a half good years at the club. Loves the club. Will give everything on that pitch, and you think if we can just keep him, he would destroy that league. He would absolutely destroy it, and that would be a big boost in getting us up. So, look, if he's willing to stay for one season, let's sell everyone else that wants to go, and all of the deadwood we need to get rid of. Try and keep Bowen and build that squad around Bowen, and then try and attract more quality. And I think we get up. If we sell everyone wholesale and we're left with players that weren't quite good enough to start for us in the Prem, I think we'll struggle.
I've got concerns for West Ham United going into the Championship. Obviously, we don't know what's ahead this summer, but we go back to the start of our conversation, and that's where my worries come from. Everyone needs to be on the right page, and they need to be acting decisively, as you put it, immediately. And this dithering over the future of Nuno Espirito Santo suggests that things aren't where they need to be. It will be a highly competitive Championship once again next season. We've seen relegated sides in the last couple of years go down and struggle if they've got off-field issues in particular. That seems to be the basis of a relegated side from the Premier League having a tough time, because we know what the finances are. If you've been in the Premier League, you should be able to almost spend your way out of the Championship. But if you haven't got things going in the right direction and organised, and it doesn't feel like West Ham do, that can cause a big problem. It's hard to see where West Ham United go from here, I think. How big are your concerns, generally speaking, about what's to come over the summer?
I mean, yeah, massive concerns, because you look at the teams that we'll be competing with, right? Say Wolves, Burnley, Wrexham, Millwall, Middlesbrough. Most of them clubs know who their manager is going to be next season. Some of the other relegated teams obviously have to sell players, but we have to sell, before we can even think about who we're bringing in, we have to sell a lot of players. We don't know who our manager is. We don't know who's going to be playing for us. So we're starting from behind. It's going to take us a long time now to build the squad that we need to go and build. We had a lot of executives like Karen Brady and the rest of the other executives behind the scenes leave. There's talks about us wanting to bring in a director of football. Well, that's not happened yet. So all of these pieces that other teams have in place, we don't have in place. So we are starting at a major disadvantage compared to the teams that we're competing with. And that, in the Championship, the games come thick and fast, and the points, can really find yourself behind in that regard. So, yeah, I am worried. I just have to hope that the fact that we'll be the biggest club in the Championship, there's an attraction there. We can try to get quality once we do have the money, and some players will hold out to play for us. That's what I hope, and we can keep some of the quality Premier League level players. But at the moment, like I said, we're starting behind everyone else we're competing against, which is massively concerning.
Dan, I hope things have a positive upturn in the near future for you. And that's Dan Lawless, West Ham Fan TV host. A reminder, though, for any West Ham fans out there, EFL exclusive coverage is here on talkSPORT, so you won't miss a moment next season. We're going to talk a little bit more about what's coming up in the coming days. A big final for Crystal Palace in Europe. We'll head to Leipzig a little bit later on this hour. Up next, we'll get the latest odds from our friends at Ladbrokes as well. You're listening to Kickoff on talkSPORT.
About 2-3 players, right? And I get that Spurs miss out.
But that's the track record.
There's plenty of players out there
over the many years.
Not lads from Middlesbrough who come off the bench in the playoff final. Like,
well, he was injured. He's been the best player in the Championship this season.
Yeah, I don't want to sign Championship players. Spurs don't need to sign Championship players. We've got Championship players. They've shown that. We got championship players.
Do you? I understand what you're saying. Hayden Hackney, I think, would be a good signing. He's been brilliant this season. But I understand what you're saying about actually you need to aim bigger than that on top of the Hayden Hackneys and that. But do you trust? Do you trust the owners enough?
No, I don't trust the owners.
I don't think it's down to the owners anymore. I think De Zerbi's got full control. I think he will be the one who's picking the players.
They still got to dip their hand in the pockets.
Well,
they've got to okay.
They've
got to sign off the contracts.
When they got rid of Daniel Levy, saying that they're going to spend money.
But that's my point.
Everyone was going to change the narrative, and it was sporting success that they were.
And then what happened in January? They went and sold. They went and sold Brennan Johnson for 30 mil. Brought in Conor Gallagher for 30 mil.
Net zero spend.
Well, it was net 12 with Sousa as well, but. You know,
first team.
Exactly. My point is, and that's my point. So summer coming up. This is Tottenham Hotspur, and you can't get the Champions League players. It's not going to happen. But you can still attract with those big wages.
It's about
Alex Scott. They're the type of player.
Well, he came from the Championship.
Yeah, I know, but he's been in Bournemouth and he's top.
No, but they bought him from the Championship.
Yeah, but he's been playing in the Premier League.
Semenyo came. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you can be clever with your recruitment. Antoine Semenyo came from the Championship. Adam Wharton.
No, but
the point is about to win a European final.
Now.
Why not?
Because I don't want them. We've got to sign the Premier League players who are playing in the Premier League who have been top draw.
The point, no.
Championship.
I think you're being a snob.
The point Jamie's making,
upgrading the squad now from where it is. They've had those middle-ranking signings. They need polish to make them get over the line and pull them out of the situation they're in. Here's a question for you.
Michael Elise's done all right coming out of the Championship.
Go back to.
Who did you go to? Went to Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then went to Bayern Munich.
Crystal Palace finished above you. They're in a European final.
Yeah, but you don't sign. We don't need players from the Championship.
You do.
Rookie. No, we don't.
You need a rebuild.
We don't need a rebuild from the Championship.
You don't need big-time Charlies coming in.
What are you talking about? It's not big-time Charlies. You've got to find the right prospect. But you don't sign a player from the Championship. We've got Championship players. We finished 17th.
I think you're being harsh, and I think you're being a snob.
You're listening to Kickoff on talkSPORT. I am Hugh Woozencroft. We were talking at West Ham a few moments ago. Got a text on 81089. Should West Ham go for Liam Rosenior? Don't know what West Ham fans would think about that. I think it'd be a great move for them, particularly in the Championship. But again, it doesn't seem like they know what to do with Nuno Espirito Santo. Got to deal with the current manager first. And I asked you a little bit earlier on about your best excuses for being late. Although someone said, this isn't an excuse, but my dentist cancelled my appointment today. Receptionist said she's sick of working and wanting to enjoy the weather, perhaps. That is possibly the case. And I love this one. Me and a mate of mine were running late for work. After being told if we're late again, we're sacked. So we stopped the van over. We let the tyre down. We took a photo of it and we sent it to the gaffer. We saved our jobs that day. Keep your best excuses for missing anything coming into us on 81089. I may have mentioned I'm Hugh Woozencroft, and up next we're going to take a look at the latest odds with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. 18+ gambleaware.org.
Delighted to say Nicola McGeady joins us. Good evening.
Good evening, Hugh. How are you?
Very well indeed. And everyone here at talkSPORT is now, after the end of the season, looking forward to the World Cup. What do we expect from England and Scotland? We'll be covering them, of course, extensively here on talkSPORT. What do we expect them to do in their opening games against Croatia and Haiti, respectively?
Yeah, look, England are third favourites to win the World Cup at 13-2, with just Spain and France ahead of them, who can't be split. They're both 9-2. So, look, of course, punters expect England to get off to a flying start against Croatia on June 17th, where they are priced now at 8-11 in the match betting. But we are expecting, a tight, low-scoring game. Croatia, they can be hard to break down. So a low-scoring game with under 2.5 goals is odds on, and what we kind of expect. 1-0 England is the favourite scoreline at 5-1. So right now, the betting firmly says England, they are favoured to win, but not in a dominant fashion. Now, Scotland, on the other hand, they're clear favourites. They'll be delighted with this fixture against the weakest side in the group to kick things off. They're 2-5 against Haiti. Anything other than a Scotland win, I think, would be a surprise. Of course, opening games, though, they tend to be nervy, so probably not really going to be a high-scoring game as well. 1-0, 2-0 Scotland results, that's kind of eye-catching, both there at 5-1. And then McGinn and McTominay are both priced at 6-4 to score at the World Cup. So, yeah, look, it's going to be interesting, Hugh, to see how both sides progress, and anyone who fancies England and Scotland both to qualify to the quarterfinals, they can get 16-1.
104 games in all at the World Cup this time around. Have you guys got any specials for the punters out there?
Yeah, look, there's lots to have a look at. But look, Kane goes to the World Cup as one of the biggest names. Punters are expecting great things from him. He's England's all-time top goal scorer. He's fresh off a massive club season, and he's in just tremendous form. So it's between him and Mbappe for a top tournament goal scorer. Mbappe's edging it at 5-1. Kane is 6-1, and already punters are backing him. And we make him 13-2 to score in all three group stage matches as well against Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. So look, we know he's a big stage performer, so I don't think it's a bad price. And of course, Sack is going to be at the front of punters' minds with the small matter of the Champions League looming at the weekend. So we make him 10-1 that he scores in the Champions League final against PSG, and for England against Croatia, for anyone who likes more a kind of long forecast bet. So yeah, that's 10-1. But look, there's lots out there. We have a market and team to score the most goals. Spain are favourites to do that at 7-2, Hugh, but England are in there at 6-1. So yes, plenty of choice and markets to have a look at and get your teeth stuck into.
Not too bad at all. You mentioned England being third favourites to win, I think it was. I have to admit, after I saw the squad, I started to look at stage of elimination. I've got to be honest with you. How do you see the possibility at each stage of England going out?
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I think a lot of people did. Bottom line is, though, we do expect England to go deep. Look, it's 3-1 that they go out in the first knockout stage, but that is proving friendless. Patriotism is alive and well in England. We have seen money on both the quarterfinals and semi-finals, which is 4-1 and 11-2 respectively. While at 7-1, they're runners up. But ultimately, as I said, England fans are, I think, in general, it seems to be positive when we look at the betting, because England are by far the worst result for the bookmakers. So even more reason to get behind them, I suppose you'd say.
Nicola, thank you very much indeed. Have a great evening. That was a look at the latest odds with Ladbrokes. It's 18+, gambleaware.org.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Okay, up next, we're going to be taking a look at events out in Leipzig. We'll hear from Oliver Glasner, the Crystal Palace boss, just 24 hours between them and a possible first European trophy. We'll speak to our very own Sam Matterface straight after this.
I think from day one, we were very clear that we are trying to select and build the best possible team, which is not necessarily to select and collect the 26 most talented players. Teams win championships. It's as simple as that. And what we are trying to achieve in summer can only be achieved as a team.
Is he right, Emmanuel?
I totally agree with him.
Team over talent.
You know, it's the same, you know, when you manage a club, you know, as a manager, you know, the team spirit is more important than individuals. And we've seen that every single season when the team who won the big trophies, you know, are always playing as a team, not as an individual. Individuals are very important, but for me, the team is more important than the individual. So, as I said before, I was quite surprised in a good way when I look at the list, you know, from Tuchel. And I thought to myself, maybe he's copying, you know, what happened in France a long time ago, not so far away, when Aimé Jacquet became the manager for the national team. He decided to make strong choices, you know, strong opinions, and he was under critiques. A lot of people they were killing him, you know. But I want to remind people that during the European tournament in 1996 here in England, France, we went until the semi-final. 2 years after that, we became world champion. And then 2 years after the World Cup, we became European champion. And from that, they played the final in 2016. They played the final in 2020 against Argentina, won the World Cup in Russia. The reason why I'm saying that is because when he took over, you know, as a manager, he decided to take away, you know, from the team the lack of Cantona and Ginola. They were huge players. Both guys, they were huge personality, huge player on the pitch as well. They were to pick up their form, you know. They could have done so much things, you know. But Aimé Jacquet decided to say, no, I don't want them. The team is more important. So I would probably pick, you know, less talented players up front, but that can fit into what I want as a team. And we became what we are.
Here are some of the best sledges in Ashes history. Let's start in 1933, Douglas Jardine versus Yabba. Jardine, the notorious captain of the Bodyline series. Yabba, some bloke in the stands who became so famous he now has a statue at the SCG. When Jardine was swatting away flies on the boundary one day, Yabba yelled, "Oi, Jardine, leave our flies alone. They're the only friends you've got." Next, Warne versus Strauss in the Edgbaston Cauldron 2005. Strauss shouted, "Come on, boys, he's struggling here," when Warne misjudged the delivery by Ashley Giles. Warne then told Strauss, "Say one more thing to me and I'll hit the next ball for six." Strauss obliged and Warne walloped an enormous six over square leg. Night-night, Straussy. Bowler Jimmy Ormond dealt a stinger to Mark Waugh, brother of Steve, in 2001 when the Aussie all-rounder told him he was nowhere near good enough to play for his country. Ormond replied, "At least I'm the best cricketer in my family." Tough. Wicketkeeper Ian Healy issued one of the great lines after Steve Waugh told Ricky Ponting to field right under the nose of Nasser Hussain. Healy remarked, "That could be anywhere within a 3-mile radius." Poor Nas. And then there's Dennis Lilly on Geoffrey Boycott, who he beautifully described as a man who fell in love with himself at a young age and has remained faithful ever since.
Whistle blows. Oliver Glasner has led Crystal Palace to their first ever European final.
Honestly, very proud on the players, especially for many of them it was the first European experience.
Mitchell with the ball in, and he's standing in the near post. Ismail Assar, yet again.
Yeah, in an ideal world, we'd top off Oliver's reign with a win next Wednesday.
Jean-Philippe Mateta, hands on hips, here he goes, right-footed, oh, he just calmly rolls it beyond the goalkeeper.
I just keep working hard and believe anything can happen.
Everybody, young and old, is on their feet. There'll be fans on their phones already, booking hotels and flights to Germany.
A huge evening ahead for Crystal Palace as the Premier League and La Liga cross paths in the Conference League final for the second year in a row. Crystal Palace taking on Rayo Vallecano in Leipzig. They won the FA Cup and Community Shield, as we know, last year at Wembley. Their European journey this year started in a Swiss courtroom. They unsuccessfully appealed against their demotion to the Conference League from the Europa, but who knows, could be the perfect thing for them, ending with a first European trophy. We'll find out live on talkSPORT in just about 24 hours. The Palace boss, Oliver Glasner, has been speaking. He's answered the media's questions and was asked exactly what it would mean for his side to get over the line tomorrow evening.
It would mean a lot, but not for me personally. I think especially for the players, for the group, because I know how hard every single player, every single one in the staff worked throughout the season. It will be our 60th game of the season. This would mean a lot for me, that we then could have a fantastic ending to the season. But however, the game ends tomorrow, because it's sports, it's football, you never know. But I really enjoyed, and we all enjoyed this journey together, and yeah, we will give our best to get the happy ending tomorrow, and this would be to win the game, of course.
Oliver Glasner, Crystal Palace boss there, on the verge of another trophy with the club. Let's head out to central Germany, where our chief football commentator, Sam Matterface, is already getting acclimatised. Good evening.
Very good evening to you, Hugh. Hello, everyone. Yeah, welcome to Leipzig. We're actually staying in the same hotel as Rayo Vallecano. Their players arrived earlier on today. They've just gone to the stadium to do their press conference and training session, but they have hired out the gym behind me, where they will be acclimatising themselves before tomorrow night's
Hold on, Sam.
final here in Leipzig. It's an absolutely stunning place to come. The weather is brilliant, and I must admit, I was in that press conference earlier on today with Oliver Glasner, and he was in terrific form. He was telling all sorts of stories about being in finals past and what it means to him and means to the club, because, you know, remember, this is a golden period in Crystal Palace's history. You know, an FA Cup win, a Community Shield win, and now the chance to get where they believe they belong into the Europa League by winning the Conference League as well.
I've got a job for you, Sam.
Yeah, go on.
Find yourself a balaclava and a fireworks shop. You need to set your alarm for 4 a.m. No one's going to see you, mate. You got to do it for Crystal Palace, all right? You got to do it for English football.
No, I don't need to do that. I'm already in the hotel, so I've just pulled a fire alarm.
Well, yeah, that's probably an easier one, isn't it? I should have thought of that. In and about Leipzig, I don't know how long you've been there, my friend, but we've seen the Vallecano players in the hotel. Have you seen the Palace fans out and about enjoying themselves as yet?
I was lucky enough to travel with a lot of Palace fans. Some of them are dotted all around Europe, actually. I know that there's a big group that are in Wroclaw tonight who will get the train in the morning down here to Leipzig and come just across us to the huge central station here and arrive in their droves. There's so many that are planning to arrive. There are lots of pockets of Crystal Palace fans here, and I was on a flight with some of them earlier on that came straight into Leipzig, but I also know that they are, a lot of them, because of the way it's very difficult to get to Leipzig, actually. I think there was only one direct flight out of London this week that went straight to the local airport. So people have been coming on trains, they've been driving certain distances, or they have decided to get the Eurostar over towards Paris and then gone to Berlin from there, and then are coming down tomorrow. I know that our colleague Alan Pardew is spending the day in Berlin today before coming down with us. A couple of members of the talkSPORT team did that route as well. So there's lots of people travelling from different areas of Germany, and I think the real sort of sound will come tomorrow afternoon around about lunchtime, when I know the big fanatic groups are going to turn up here. I mean, it's worth pointing out that they're so annoyed and still scarred from what happened last summer that they've been urged by groups within the Palace support to stick away from the UEFA fan zones. They want their own environment that they're putting together tomorrow, because they want to show UEFA that they're still furious about being demoted from the Europa League last year. But the atmosphere, whenever you bumped into a Palace supporter, has been terrific. They've got smiles on their faces. Crystal Palace are in Europe for the first time, and they're in the final. And I don't care what you say, this means the world to them.
It's such an interesting season from Crystal Palace. It's had its ups and downs. You've obviously had key players leaving. You know, you think about Eberechi Eze, but also, of course, Mark Gahey in January. Obviously, the manager announcing his departure in January as well, when Gahey was leaving the same week. Yeah, that was a huge blow. Of course, the Swiss courtroom and everything that went with it, you've just been talking about. But yet it feels like we've arrived in this week, and the vibe, the positivity, all the Palace fans I speak to, but also seeing on social media, it's come back in because I think as a fan base, there is a realisation that they're Crystal Palace. You know, nights like this, nights like winning the FA Cup and the Community Shield, they don't happen to Crystal Palace, and they're going to savour every single moment.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I was at the FA Cup final. I commentated that for television last May. I was at the Community Shield with talkSPORT when they won that, and been fortunate enough, privileged enough to be sent out here as well to cover what could be a hat-trick of major titles. This time last year, go back a couple of days, 360 days ago, they had never won a major club competition, Crystal Palace. This is a remarkable period in their history. And you're right about that positive vibe returning, because there was a period, go back to January, February, March period, where there was the departures of Mark Gay, the captain. There was a bit of rumblings about Oliver Glasner, even from within the Palace support. I went to Zrinjski Mostar in Bosnia with Crystal Palace earlier in this competition. And at that time, the relationship between Oliver Glasner and the supporters was at an all-time low. Some of them calling for him to be sacked. Performances weren't great. But somehow he has repaired that damage. And on Sunday afternoon, I don't know if you saw it, but Steve Parish came onto the pitch, asked the Arsenal fans to keep the noise down for a bit. And the sound of Oliver Glasner's red and blue army was ringing out around the ground louder than it ever had before. I think that damage has been pushed to one side. I think they've healed that. They recognise that he's given them some great moments. And interestingly, he was asked in the press conference about, you know, the kind of guy he is in and around the training ground, what he's like to work with and work for. And he said, I'm a guy that has proper conversations. Like, I don't want people around me that are going to say yes, 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 yes. And I don't want people above me that are going to expect me to say yes, 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 yes. Because when we have disagreements, when we have different opinions, when we have different information to feed into the narrative, we make better decisions because we start to think more deeply about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So I thought that was really interesting. It was funny because as he was talking about that, Dean Henderson was laughing his head off, and everybody thought, well, Dean Henderson doesn't want to challenge him. And actually, Dean Henderson said afterwards to Adrian Durham that actually he would never dare question the manager, which was quite illuminating.
He's been a fantastic manager for Crystal Palace. Even that little dip that he had there, it's kind of sad given what he's brought to the football club. Their first major trophy, followed it up with the Community Shield. I'm very confident he'll follow it up tomorrow evening with a European trophy as well. He's going to leave a great legacy for a fairly short period in charge at Crystal Palace. Going to be one of their greatest ever managers, I'm sure, if not the greatest. And yet, no news of who might be a potential successor, and all of that should be rumbling on in the background because they've had so long to decide, Crystal Palace, and yet we're only just hearing rumours about the likes of Andoni Iraola. Why have they waited so long, and is that going to impact them moving forward? I know the immediate is obviously tomorrow's game, but looking at the wider story.
Well, they haven't waited. Matt Hobbs, who is the interim sporting director, was pretty clear. They have told Andoni Iraola that they want him to be their new manager. The issue is that Andoni Iraola is just taking his time. I think Crystal Palace identified him as their number one target right from the very off, but didn't believe there was much chance that they were going to get him. So they've definitely worked very hard to be ambitious in replacing Oliver Glasner. The next step really is what happens tomorrow night, because I think if they don't get Iraola, or they don't attract another manager of that sort of calibre, it will be because they haven't got European football. Tomorrow night, they can guarantee a place in the Europa League. And if they do that, then the pool widens for them. There's no doubt. You know, they can be a little bit more ambitious. But it is a pivotal night for a number of reasons, because I think actually securing Europa League football for Crystal Palace may well determine the futures of quite a few of the other players as well. We've heard rumblings about Maxence Lacroix and what might happen to him after he was called up for the World Cup squad for France. We've heard about the possibility of people eyeing up Ismail Assai. And why wouldn't they, bearing in mind that he has been absolutely terrific, got 20 goals and scored in each of his last 5 Conference League appearances. So there's a lot of that to deal with, but that all comes after tomorrow night, because tomorrow night is a narrative setter. It positions Crystal Palace as either a team that have just finished 15th and 16th in the 15th, I think it was, in the Premier League, or it positions them as a team that are European winners and about to compete in the Europa League. And that is a very different proposition for an incoming manager.
Sam Matterface, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Don't be setting off fire.
Nice to speak to you, fellas.
Have a nice
we'll
night's sleep. One more question, Sam. I asked a little bit earlier on to everyone, what's the worst excuse you've given for skiving off a day at work? I know you've got loads of different excuses. You use them all the time. What's your worst?
No. Never, ever skive off a day at work. Work is too precious. It's a privilege to do the job that we do. We don't skive off. We may well go out the night before. We might not be at our best, but we make sure that we're ready to do whatever it is we're supposed to do the next day. This is talkSPORT. You just have to get on with it.
That's Sam Matterface flagging what the lads are going to be up to tonight, but he will be on commentary, he promises, tomorrow evening at Crystal Palace taking on Rayo Vallecano live from Leipzig. All the build-up from 7 o'clock, 8 p.m. kickoff alongside Adrian Durham, Sam, and the former Crystal Palace manager, Alan Pardew. You're listening to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18+, gambleaware.org. And up next, the former Spurs and Manchester United forward Terry Gibson's going to give us the down low on Palace's opposition tomorrow. So stay with us for that.
You're going down next season.
No, we're not going down, mate.
You're going down, mate.
No, even you know that. Even you know
Well,
that.
why am I saying it?
Well, because you know that's not going to happen.
What do you mean I know? I don't say things.
You know that's never going to happen.
Well,
we had this season was an absolute joke.
And what's going to change?
Well, everything's going to change.
Well, okay, name it.
Well, starting one with the manager.
Right.
The manager's come in and he's got results kept us up.
Right, okay.
He won't allow.
You said that last season.
No, we got Thomas Frank in the summer, and that was the wrong appointment. This is the right appointment.
Okay. But you said that last summer.
So everything will change.
You've got a new manager. You said that.
They won't allow that. They won't allow that to happen.
And you can't allow. You can't. You've not got a magic
wand. You can't
wand.
sit there and say that Spurs are going to go down, mate.
I'm saying you now. You would be in a relegation battle this season.
Jace,
promise you.
Mate, shut up. What are you on about?
You're one of my favourites to go down.
What are you on about?
You can't just flip. Honestly, you've been in football all your life. You can't flick a switch and just think we're Spurs. You were Spurs last year, and you're Spurs this season.
Well, that's
you
absolute garbage.
have gone through the same thing.
Garbage.
Yeah, it's
Teams
worse.
Finished 17th, and then they sort themselves out.
Did you get better or worse?
What? We've got more points this season.
Did you get better or worse?
Well, technically, we got better.
Did you get better or worse?
Factually, we got better. Because we got 30. We got 38 points last season. We got 41 this season. Good season.
See, this is the
good season.
This is the arrogance and the naivety of you, and you're just Spurs, mate.
No, but listen, I'm up for a laugh. Listen, I'm all up for a laugh, right? And it has been.
You're going down next season.
Oh, we're not. Oh, Jace.
You're going down, mate.
Jace.
You're going down.
Jace. Come on, mate.
EFL Roundup. Come on, mate. It's coming. All you've done.
I know you want to keep the narrative alive, right? Just for your own little self-worth.
What do you mean self-worth?
Oh, you want to keep it alive. You keep your little EFL roundups and keep your little Ange mask and keep all that garbage that you've done all season.
What do you mean garbage?
Load of old guff. All right, load of old guff. And it's only been good because Spurs have been crap. All right, so I know you want to keep it going, but you can't sit
24 months.
You can't sit there with a straight face and say Spurs are going to go down.
Right, next season, you're hearing this.
Get a full rundown of all the Championship's biggest teams in the Sports Bar. EFL Roundup with Jamie O'Hara on talkSPORT.
Right, I'm going to put it out there now, right? I'm going to phone the boss, all right? In the break, I'm phoning the boss. Not the mid-boss, the big boss, all right?
Okay.
They're getting deleted from the archive.
What's going to get deleted?
Never to be seen again. EFL Roundup cannot be played on this station one more time, all right? Because Spurs are in the Premier League. So forget your little... trip to the 2026 FIFA World Cup courtesy of Adidas. You and a mate could be in Dallas on June the 17th seeing England against Croatia live. Flights, hotels, spending money, tickets and the official tree on the match ball as well. They're all included. Just head to talksportwin.com to enter and for full terms and conditions. You're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT. I am Hugh Woozencroft, and we were discussing Crystal Palace tomorrow night live on talkSPORT. They'll be taking on Rayo Vallecano in the Conference League final. Their route to the showpiece has been called a miracle. This, of course, I'm referring to Rayo Vallecano, the club from an inner city part of Madrid. It really pales into comparison, of course, with their local rivals. They've got one of the youngest managers in Europe, 38-year-old Inigo Perez. Their facilities are crumbling. They don't even sell tickets to their matches online, and yet they stand on the verge of a first major honour, and so it could be history for Palace's rivals tomorrow night as well. Let's speak to Terry Gibson, former Manchester United and Spurs forward, Spanish football expert these days as well. Good evening, Terry.
Good evening, Hugh.
Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Rayo have captivated so many people in recent years, haven't they? Just tell us why. What has made this club so special?
Well, I think they're classic underdogs, and I think it's quite a cool club to be your second favourite team. So they do have a small stadium. It's only got 3 stands, 14,000 capacity, passionate fan base. But one or two of those things you just mentioned about you can't buy a ticket online, you have to go and queue up. People are doing that 2 or 3 days ahead of this final to make sure they were able to get a ticket. The president of the club currently is trying to run the club into the ground because he wants to move the stadium. He wants to sell the ground and build somewhere on the outskirts of Madrid rather than in the district that Rayo Vallecano is. So it's everything about them is it's them against the world. And you know they even this season, Hugh, they had to play a game away from home, a home match against Atletico Madrid, because the players complained about the pitch and the facilities and the training ground. So they had to play the game at Leganés. They had to use Getafe's training ground because there was no money being spent on the playing surface. There was no money spent on the facilities at the training ground. They were complaining there's not even hot water at the training ground. So against all the odds, with this remarkable young manager, they've managed to finish 8th again in La Liga, and this is almost approaching their 60th game of the season. It's a relatively small squad. It's a wonderful story. And my answer, I guess you're going to say, can they beat Palace? Palace are big favourites, but yeah, Rayo Vallecano can overcome those odds, and they will certainly be very competitive against Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I think we've seen in La Liga over the last couple of years them create some shocks. They're a very good team. They have been on their day, so Palace certainly do have to watch out for them. I'll come to the football in a more detail in a moment, but just tell us how it works in Spain that an owner can essentially run their club into the ground. This is like Todd Bowley basically saying, I'm not going to change the pitch at Stamford Bridge. We're not going to take care of the training ground, and we're just going to leave Stamford Bridge to rot. When it starts crumbling, I'll sell for the whatever amount of money, hundreds of millions probably, that Stamford Bridge, the land that it's on, would be worth, and sod the rest of you. I mean, how is he getting away with it?
But he is just, and I think that there was an initiative about 4 years ago now where advanced money was given to the clubs from the TV contracts. And it was meant to rebuild and help with the infrastructure of the clubs. Rayo, one of the few clubs that haven't done that. Everybody else has. So we had some old historic stadiums, but they've all been replaced. They've all been refurbished. New stadiums are being built. Training facilities are better as well now for the players. They're not in debt to the players anymore. That was a massive thing in the past where players, for most clubs, were owed money. That's not the case. But Rayo Vallecano seem to have slipped through the net with this one. It's astonishing, as I say. In this day and age, having to queue for a ticket overnight. I can remember back when I was playing, when I was younger even, when I was a young supporter of Spurs, hearing that people were sleeping overnight outside White Hart Lane to get a ticket for a big game. You shouldn't have to do that in this day and age, but unfortunately, the Rayo fans put up with it, and they do their utmost to make sure that stadium's full in every match.
Tell us what you think about the manager, Inigo Perez, because I think he was Andoni Iraola's former assistant at the club and could have come with him to Bournemouth, decided to stay and take the head coach's role, and he's grown and grown.
He actually did come to Bournemouth with him.
Oh, he did?
And he spent about, I would say, 3/4 of a season, and he couldn't get a work permit. And hence the reason the job at Rayo was vacant again, and he went back to Rayo. They're peas in a pod. So for Crystal Palace fans, if you want to know what you're up against, it's essentially a Spanish version of Bournemouth. They really work hard. I got to meet Inigo Perez and Iraola, and we're talking about players, and every single player that we were talking about, they said he doesn't run enough or he does run. So essentially, you have to really work hard, and that's what the players they have at Rayo Vallecano. They are the peas in the pod, as I say, and Rayo Vallecano play very similar to Bournemouth. They don't have the same quality, but they have that spirit and that mentality, and they play a similar style of football.
Is it very much then a team approach, or are there real key players that Palace fans should be looking out for tomorrow evening?
It's a team approach, but I think there are one or two that might surprise. The right back, Andre Ratiu, has been linked with Barcelona. He's a Romanian international. But they have Florian Lejeune, the ex-Newcastle player at centre-back, who's been a rock for them defensively, plays pretty much every game. The goalkeeper, Augusto Batalla, is a replica of Emi Martinez. And I think people will know exactly what I mean by that. So if it's a penalty shootout, he'll be lively. He'll probably go down with cramp with 15 minutes to go if they have the lead, all that sort of stuff. Issy Palazon is probably the star player. He played the number 10 role in a 4-2-3-1. Jorge de Frutas got called up for the national team this season, which was another wonderful story for Rayo Vallecano. He was a right winger converted to a centre forward. Got 10 goals in the first half of the season, called up by Spain. So that was a massive success story for the club. He's now gone back to the right wing position, and they've suddenly found a couple of strikers towards the back end of the season that Inigo Perez didn't fancy for 3/4 of the season. And then suddenly Alamao, the Brazilian, who they spent all their money on, 5 million. That was their outlay and transfer fees last summer. He's suddenly come good. So he's a big, strong, aggressive. He just knocks people over. He's one of those. He bounces around, knocks people over, and can finish. So it's very much a team project, though.
Can you predict? What do you think will happen?
But they always do well against Real Madrid and Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. They really do give them a tough game, and whether it's home or away. So Crystal Palace, Oliver Glasner will know this isn't going to be a walkover, and I'm sure that lots of supporters, not of Crystal Palace, but English supporters that are watching the game, expect Crystal Palace to have an easy ride. I don't think it will be, but I probably just make Crystal Palace favourites.
Terry Gibson, always a pleasure to talk. The former Spurs and Manchester United forward, now Spanish football expert and broadcaster, joining us live here on Kickoff. Big game for Crystal Palace. The Conference League final against Rayo Vallecano is live right here tomorrow evening on talkSPORT, an 8 p.m. kickoff. Make sure you're with us for that. Make sure you're with us after the break as well. We'll be talking Tottenham and Arsenal in the next hour. We'll also find out about some of the latest transfers. This is talkSPORT.
Interestingly, we just want to get your sort of on this whole players, seeing what people say about them and seeing what people write about them. And just quickly, this is what Gabby Agbonlahor had to say on a player yesterday on talkSPORT Breakfast. We were talking about Spurs and their staying up on the last day. And he had this to say about Vicario.
These players should have been walking around the pitch on their hands and knees saying sorry to the fans. And Vicario, I'm watching the game. I'm listening to the commentary with Gary Neville. You're spot on. This goalkeeper has done nothing in a Spurs shirt. Been dreadful. And there's a clip of him offering out Seamus Coleman. Vicario, we've seen you punch, mate. You can't punch the ball. You're not going to be able to punch anybody. So we know you can't fight. So have some respect for a Premier League legend in Seamus Coleman. But that summed up Vicario yesterday. All over the sideline, trying to be a coach and jumping on the manager's back when they scored the first goal. Paulinho, I think, is an embarrassment to that football club. I'll get rid of him.
So that was Gabby talking yesterday on talkSPORT Breakfast. And talkSPORT put it on their Instagram. And what happened? Vicario commented saying, scary. And Gabby then replied, calling him a bluffer. So, Ali, what are your thoughts on players coming back and hitting back at what pundits are saying about them?
No, I think that they're entitled to their opinion, aren't they? If the pundit's entitled to give their opinion, they're entitled to have a right to reply. But I'm not too sure I've been getting involved in it. I think they've got far bigger issues and other things to concentrate on. I understand sometimes players needs or feel the right to defend themselves. They should always have that and have the right to do that. But I just think sometimes you wouldn't want to be getting yourself involved in what can turn into a petty argument. When I'm not saying you should be above that, but you've got more important things to worry about. Listen, there's no difference to a pundit having an opinion than there is a punter having an opinion, and we've had it since football began. That will not change. I'm with Jeff on the Fernandes thing. I think Fernandes has been brilliant this season. I really do. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. I'm a wee bit surprised he got himself involved in that kind of stuff. And I'm a little bit surprised Vicario is getting himself involved in that kind of stuff with Gabby. But absolutely, I would defend their right to reply. But I think sometimes there's no real need for them to get themselves involved.
Shin pads are a footballer's best friend, even if players like Jack Grealish do wear such small ones you can barely even see them. But what's the story with shin pads, and are there any rules on how big they should be? It all started with cricket, actually. Cricketers had been wearing shin pads since the 1700s. They'd been introduced not for leg protection, but instead to give batters a strategic advantage. The idea was that batters could put their leg pads in front of the wicket if they missed the ball, preventing them from being bowled out. Obviously, that all changed when the LBW rule came in, but that was the theory behind them. It was thanks to this guy that shin protection made its way over to football. Meet Samuel Widdowson. He was a cricketer and a footballer. He played for Nottingham Forest back in the late 1800s, and he wanted a way to protect his legs from nasty tackles. Apparently, he'd broken his leg in a match against Sheffield United in 1874 and wanted to stop it from happening again. Naturally, his mind drifted to his other favourite sport, where players had been wearing these pads. Story goes, Widdowson cut up his cricket pads, sewed them into his socks and popped them on before taking to the footy pitch. Ta-da! Shin pads. Like all great genius inventors, everyone took the mickey at first. To be fair, he probably looked quite stupid running around with these on. But it's thought his whole Nottingham Forest team then began wearing them from 1887, and the first known use of them in a match was in 1894, in a match between Newcastle and the then Woolwich Arsenal. Eventually, FIFA clocked on that this protection was pretty important for footballers. Multiple studies have shown wearing shin pads clearly reduces the risk of players getting lower leg injuries. And so, in 1990, basically 100 years after Widdowson first put them on, shin pads were made compulsory. It became a part of Law 4 of IFAB. That's the body responsible for setting the laws of the game internationally. But the law doesn't actually specify anything about measurements of shin pads. It just says pads must be made of a suitable material and be of an appropriate size to provide reasonable protection. It's really vague, and players can get away with a lot. A lot of grassroots clubs are choosing to ban micro shin pads for obvious reasons, though, especially after a 15-year-old player from Penistone Church broke his leg while wearing them. Still no change from IFAB, though. That's why Grealish and co can still get away with these ones, which are no bigger than a credit card and which seem to offer little to no protection whatsoever.
This is Kickoff on talkSPORT. This hour, Tottenham Hotspur's hierarchy are making big promises to fans after they avoided relegation from the Premier League on the final day. But have the Spurs fans heard it all before? Are you confident that this is the wake-up call that the club needs? Spurs fans, give us a call, 03717 223344. We'll discuss their North London rivals Arsenal as well, who have a date with destiny in the Champions League. Will their defensive style of play cost them against Paris Saint-Germain? Or is it actually the reason they're likely to win? Are we maybe underestimating the quality of Mikel Arteta's side? We'll get some of the early transfer rumours from our very own Ben Jacobs and reflect on the EFL playoff finals at Wembley. This is Kickoff. I am Hugh Woozencroft. You can drop us a text on 81089. You can watch us as well, Amazon TV, Connected TV, wherever you like, YouTube as well, of course. And I'm delighted to say joining me for the next half an hour is the former Chelsea and West Ham defender, Scott Minto. Good evening.
Evening, Hugh. You okay, mate?
Very well indeed. Thank you for taking the time to join me this evening. Before we start on Tottenham, there is something that I did want to ask you about, because at the top of the first hour, we spoke to Dan Lawless from West Ham Fan TV about the story today in The Guardian that there is a debate amongst some very big figures at West Ham United over the future of Nuno Espirito Santo, Daniel Kretinsky and David Sullivan, of course, who have maybe, reportedly, different opinions about what's next. I'm kind of shocked that there wasn't a consensus on the future of the manager before the final game of the season, and that these discussions are happening after the final game of the season. But ultimately, what does it show us about where West Ham are as a club right now?
Well, I think I agree with you in that this wasn't sort of decided if West Ham stay up, this happens. If they go down, this happens. You know, why are you having meetings afterwards? It shows, I suppose, what we've seen for a few years now, a lack of forward planning and forward thinking. Just such a shame. I mean, I was there at the weekend and the fans were superb, even though it wasn't a good first half performance at all. I think they knew there's no point in having a go at any of the players. Just got to try and get behind them, get the results, and then see what happens. And obviously Spurs did their job. But yeah, just I think disappointing from the start of the season, and actually even further back, much further back than that. I think you can trace it back, Hugh, to when David Moyes left. The job he did there was superb, and since then it's been downhill all the way.
We'll see if there's a change moving forward at West Ham in the coming days, I'm sure. Not far across London, Tottenham were the team who actually stayed in the Premier League. Their board has had something to say. Non-executive board chairman, Peter Charrington. What do these roles even mean? But there you go. He has said in a statement that football success had not been driving our decisions. Actually, it feels like a pretty pointed criticism of Daniel Levy, the former chairman at Tottenham Hotspur, because there was a big defence of the Lewis family, the changes that they've made in roles in September. There was a big overhaul of some of the power brokers at Tottenham Hotspur in September. This letter to fans kind of reaffirmed the club's position on those roles, because I think a lot of people have been calling for sackings here, there and everywhere when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur. It actually said in the statement, last September, we recognised that something seismic had to change at Spurs. The Lewis family stepped in and authorised a full reset. That decision was not taken lightly, and it came later than it should have. As part of that process, we discovered some uncomfortable truths. The qualities that make Spurs distinct, our football, our ambition, the connection between the team and its supporters had been allowed to fade. Football success had not been driving our decisions. But what it felt like to me, I'm not a Tottenham fan, is a bit of PR on the behalf of the Lewis family and a few Tottenham fans thinking that it actually should have been them doing the talking after the final game of the season. What did you make of it?
Yeah, look, I'm not a Tottenham fan, but you can't help but admire the club, admire the stadium, admire the training ground that they have, and having admired players from down the years and the players that I played against, the likes of Gaza and Chrissy Waddle. But look, it's about the here and now, and for me, it sounds like just a complete shifting of the blame. Daniel Levy was the chairman, yes, and he owns part. He's got shares in ENIC, but the Lewis family are the boss. And if they weren't happy what's been going on over the last 25 years, then they could have told him what to do, and he would have had to have dealt with that. I think Daniel Levy, and I'm not defending him as such, but I think he's an incredible businessman, but he's not really a football person. But it sounds like the Lewis family are even less football people if they think that they can try and put all the blame on Daniel Levy when he was their day-to-day person trying to sort it out. From an accountancy point of view, it was brilliant. From a football point of view, you don't have to be a Spurs fan to know what they were doing. They were trying to buy players on the cheap, and then in the end they were spending transfer fees but putting wages on the cheap. In other words, getting youngsters, not ready-made world-class players. And when they try to get those ready-made world-class players, or the likes of Ebrieze was certainly on the way up, they dillied and dallied. And no, for me, I'm not having that, to be honest with you. I think Daniel Levy was part of the problem, but I think the big problem here is the Lewis family.
Spurs fans, you can have your say on the statement itself on 03717 223344. I think the reality of the situation is it's words, and it may be more empty promises. It's all about actions from here on out when it comes to the hierarchy at Tottenham Hotspur. They need to show these fans that those words that they put out yesterday actually mean something by addressing the squad. Roberto De Zerbi's got big changes to make there. I think he said that there were 10, 11, 12 players that he feels are good enough for the level that Spurs need to be at. They also need to address the culture, because whether you like it or not, what has gone on recently with the likes of Christian Romero going back to Argentina, is he going to be there for the final game? But also just his general approach to captaincy and the number of red cards, the ill discipline, stuff like that has to change. And of course, things that are out of the players' control, like injury, which has been a consistent problem with Tottenham Hotspur over the last few years, and the football club as a whole has not addressed it. These fans need to see action as soon as possible. Let's hear from one of the Tottenham contingent, James Maddison, who joined Anthony Goldstein and Darren Bent from the James Maddison Invitational a little bit earlier on today. It was his charity golf event for Dementia Club. He was asked to describe the full-time emotions when Spurs secured Premier League safety.
Just pure relief, mate. Yeah. Pure relief. Like, a few people were questioning why we were celebrating almost. We wasn't celebrating joy and happiness. It was relief, mate. It was a massive pressure game. There was a lot on the line, so we prepared for it like we prepared for the Europa League final. You know what I mean? There was that much on the line, if not more, probably. Yeah. So the celebrations at the end, which obviously the fun police come out and have a little bit of a go at, was more relief. Just the fact that we have managed to dig deep and get that last win, because I knew West Ham would win against Leeds. You could feel it. West Ham at home. West Ham have got great fans as well. We knew that place would be rocking and they'd probably get a result, so we knew we had to get something. And
when you were playing in that last game of the season, you were 1-up and then West Ham scored. Did you know on the pitch?
I was warming up and there was a fella behind me who just went, Madders, West Ham scored.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like, I just said, calm, mate, we're 1-0 up, just don't even worry about that. And then he said, Madders, West Ham are 2-0 up. And I was like, mate, I just told you, just calm down.
Well, we can all laugh about it now, can't we? Tottenham Hotspur staying in the Premier League. We're going to hear more from James Maddison's interview on Drive later on in the show. His manager, Scott, Roberto De Zerbi, won 3 of his 7 games. He remained unbeaten at home during his little stint at the end of the season there. He now gets the chance to rebuild this squad, rebuild this club, really, in terms of its confidence. The big question is, how do they do it? What do they need to do to take that big step forward?
Well, you mentioned injuries, Hugh, and when you're regularly having throughout the whole season double-figure injuries, that's a massive, massive problem. When you think about the likes of James Maddison and Kulusevski, amongst many others, Dominic Solanke, that's almost your forward line taken out. And that forward line in the last few months of the season just wasn't good enough. So I think Roberto De Zerbi was holding himself back. He diluted himself in terms of what he was asking his players to do on the pitch. And I think I watched almost every presser as well, just to see how he'd react. And I could see the pressure even getting to him and realising just how big a club Tottenham is and what a disaster it would be. But he handled himself really well. He didn't want to criticise anyone. He wanted to always be positive. But I'm telling you now, he is going to be absolutely ruthless from here on in. And they basically have given, and rightly so, him the keys to the castle by giving him the long-term contract. I'd still be surprised if he finishes his contract, but that's not the point. Short term, they've stayed up. Medium term, what are you going to do? And look, you mentioned the injuries. I don't know. I don't know if you've got to have a look at the actual pitch itself or even the training pitch and see if there's a problem, because it's almost as if whoever you bring in, half of the squad just keep on getting injured all the time. So that's one problem. 2, I think they need wingers and quality wingers. I think they need the ability to create chances. The Tottenham way, people might be able to make fun of that, but actually that's what Spurs fans do want. They want to see a nice brand of football. Yeah. So I think wingers are really important. I think a couple of creative midfielders as well wouldn't go amiss. But they've also got to get rid of quite a few of those players. And for me, Cristiano Romero leads that. The fact that he was there, he was basically told to come back. The fact that we're even having that discussion as to whether he'd be in Argentina watching his boyhood club, possibly make history, or be at the club that you've been at for the last few years and captain of, I think probably signifies, is one of many reasons, but probably the biggest reasons why Spurs were down there and have been for the last couple of years.
Yeah, big question marks for Tottenham moving forward. Delighted that they're in the Premier League, I am sure. But as it goes for statements, as I said before, actions speak a lot louder than words. You're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18+, gambleaware.org. That was Scott Minto, former West Ham and Chelsea defender, with you. He's going to stay with us up until past. We'll talk about Arsenal and a huge week ahead of them. Could they win their first Champions League title? We'll find out.
They came mightily close, Emmanuel, to being relegated. And as I mentioned there, 2 consecutive 17th place finishes. And he's saying, 10 to 12 of these guys can stay on. You know, we've got, in other words, we have quite a number of them that can crack on next season. Does he have those players? Does he have as many as that who could do them a job next season? I mean, how many of this group go forward long term, do you think, with De Zerbi?
Well, if you point the finger at the players, I think everyone will say this exactly the same. They don't deserve to play at Tottenham. But if you look at the whole situation, take an X-ray, for the last 2-3 seasons, you realize that there is no serenity and on the bench. They have changed so many managers. And since Levy left the club last season, I think many people in the board have made so much mistakes, And I think the chief executive, I can't remember his name, but I think he has to take responsibility as well. So, of course, the players have a huge responsibility because when you look at the squad, when you look at the money they have, everything, the new stadium, the fan base, I think this club should have played, for European places. But if you look at the whole situation, I think, for me, I don't understand what's going on at Spurs, in terms of sport vision. I don't see it, because when things doesn't go the way they want, they fire the manager. When they don't want this player, they take another one. That reminds me so many clubs, the policy of so many clubs, and they are wrong. You have to stick with your vision. But what is the vision actually at Tottenham? There is no vision at all because the manager changed every single 3-4 months. So you have to come back on what it means, to get a team, which means for me, they have to change the mentality inside the club because I don't see the same Spurs team, the same club I used to see for years and years,
Yeah.
The mentality for me is the worst.
And if they don't change this vision, they're looking at a third.
You can take the best player in the world if you want. Look at Manchester United. If you don't change the mentality of the team, it will never happen.
Listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT. Hugh Woozencroft alongside the former West Ham and Chelsea defender Scott Minto. We're going to get into Arsenal in very shortly, but we're going to have some breaking news for you as well on the way. Have we got that breaking news right now on talkSPORT? I think our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, has got some news hot off the press. Good evening.
Good evening. Hopefully the technology is working okay, Hugh.
I've got you.
You can hear me. I can hear you. Yeah, it surrounds Elliot Anderson, Nottingham Forest midfielder, England international, someone who's going to, I think, play a big part for England at the World Cup this summer. We know there's been strong interest from both Manchester City and Manchester United, but it's our understanding at talkSPORT that Manchester City are hopeful that they will win the race for Elliot Anderson, that the Etihad is his preferred destination over Old Trafford. I'm told, actually, in an ideal world, City will try and get this deal done even before England kick off their World Cup campaign with that game against Croatia in Dallas in just a couple of weeks' time now. So this is a really key signing, I think, for Manchester City. If you look at why they've fallen short in terms of the Premier League title, I think the form of Rodri and the issues they've had in midfield have been a real factor in that, and they see Elliot Anderson as someone who can go in and improve them. Nottingham Forest see Anderson in the same sort of price bracket as Declan Rice. So you're talking in excess of £100 million. I think at the moment, City would like to try and get that deal done cheaper. But when it comes to Manchester United and Elliot Anderson, I felt for a few weeks now that as much as they would love to take him to Old Trafford, they're realistic. They know that he's not necessarily top of their priority list. So I expect Anderson to join Manchester City and then United to have to look elsewhere.
Once again, City make their move, Scott Minto, decisively, immediately. They go for another proven Premier League player in the shape of Elliot Anderson. Add that to Antoine Semenyo and Mark Gahey. And it looks like the future is going to be bright. If it's under Enzo Maresca, he's getting quality coming into his midfield. How happy should City fans be about the prospect of seeing Elliot Anderson in their shirt?
Yeah, I think Elliot Anderson, and look, he's had a little bit of a dip in the sort of second third of the season, but I think he is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. And when you think about he's been playing under pressure, a bit like Morgan Gibbs-White as well, I think can count himself very unlucky he wasn't on the plane. But Elliot Anderson has now become so important, not just for club, but for country as well. He is not one of the first names, but he's definitely on that team sheet for the first 11, which means that Declan Rice pushes further forward. And then you've got a choice between Jude Bellingham and Morgan Rogers. And that's because of the form of Elliot Anderson. I mean, I do wonder what Eddie Howe must be thinking. You know, I think from financial reasons, they had to get rid of him. And look where he's going now. He's just blossomed at Forest. I think he's an absolutely superb player. He's happy to receive the ball when he's got someone right behind him. He protects the back four. He forwards passes, whereas a lot of people just sidewards all the time. And I just think he helps control games. The question is, and I remember being in the studio with Crookie and Sam Matterface as well, and the sort of question was asked, there's a lot of players who have gone to City and, you know, who have done really well, showed they're incredibly talented, but not done exceptionally well once they're at City. But I do think once Manchester City come in for you, you have to sign. And for me, that's Enzo Maresca saying, I want Elliot Anderson.
Is he ready? Is he ready to be a player that wins Premier League titles, that wins Champions League titles? Because that is the goal in a Manchester City shirt.
Is he ready to win the World Cup, Hugh? I hope that's yes to all of those, or certainly from an England point of view anyway. And I think the confidence that we've seen with him and the way, as I say, not just in the Premier League, but when, don't forget, the team are not doing well and yet his stats still rival anybody at the top end of the Premier League, as well as doing well in Europe as well. No, I think he's absolutely ready. I really do. And I hope he blossoms. Quite often, you know, yeah, there might be some players who sort of fall away by the wayside. Calvin Phillips is probably the obvious one, but there are others who would just lift themselves with even better players around them, and I'm sure he can do that.
Well, listen, I think of Tijani Reinders from AC Milan, who went to Manchester City last summer, hasn't materialised for him in a City shirt, and I imagine he's going to do a similar job to what Elliot Anderson is, and that might mean he's leaving the club this summer. So it shows you it doesn't work out for every player, even if they are experienced and talented. But Elliot Anderson, Manchester City fans, looks like he could be yours and yours before the World Cup. But the breaking news on talkSPORT doesn't end there. Alex Crook, our football correspondent, is still with us with the latest on events at the London Stadium. Tell us more.
Yeah, this has been a really interesting 48 hours or so because, of course, Scott and I were at West Ham at the weekend. They did their job. They beat Leeds by 3-0. Wasn't enough to keep them in the Premier League. Nuno Espirito Santo, very non-committal and a little bit spiky in the interview that I did with him after the game. Then we heard yesterday morning there were crisis talks between Nuno and the board, and it looked at that stage as if he would definitely be sacked. But as is often the way with West Ham, there does seem to be a bit of a split at board level. I think Daniel Kretinsky, the Czech owner, would like to keep Nuno. David Sullivan perhaps prefers to go in a different direction. So it's still in the balance, but I think Nuno's got more chance of starting next season as West Ham manager today than he did probably this time last night. It looks like he is willing to carry on, and maybe a lot of West Ham fans might welcome that because he's got a track record of taking teams out of the Championship. He did it with Wolverhampton Wanderers, which was one of the points that Scott made when we were on air yesterday. There is a groundswell of support for Scott Parker, so it does seem a pretty 50-50 call at the minute, whether it's Nuno or Scott Parker who starts next season as West Ham manager.
Your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, do you know what? I'd be happy with either. I think, as Cookie was saying, both have good records of getting out of the Championship. Look, I sort of defended Nuno yesterday, and I was sort of saying, I understand he ultimately failed, and it wasn't as if he came in like Roberto De Zerbi with 6, 10, 15 games to go. He came in September. But if you look at his Forest form when he first came in, it was just 3 wins in the first 13. Yes, he's not blameless with some of the things that he did, and the inverted fullbacks didn't work. He was picking players early on just because I think he'd work with them rather than actually the better players. But the second half of the season was a lot better. I'm hearing reports though of sort of fallouts in the dressing room, and we need to know more about that, because if it looks like it's a little bit of a toxic dressing room and Nuno's playing a part in that, then that can't happen. But if it's not, and it's just players with bad attitudes, then he needs to get them out and get, proper players in. So as we said at the start, Hugh, I cannot believe that West Ham, the hierarchy, are having this conversation now and haven't had it already, and be very decisive about it.
Slightly more difficult if you're on the board of Fulham, of course, because I imagine they're desperate for their manager Marco Silva to stay. The question is, will he want to? What's the latest, Alex?
Well, I think that's very much in the balance as well, Hugh. We've been reporting for the past few weeks now, if not months, that Marco Silva could leave at the end of this season. His contract is up. There's a very lucrative deal on the table from Fulham. I'm told it's worth £8 million a year to sign a new 3-year contract. The longer that's gone unsigned, the more you think that he's potentially looking elsewhere. Jose Mourinho, we fully expect to leave Benfica to go back to Real Madrid, which I think is going to be a fascinating story in its own right next season. But if he does do that, then it's my information that having failed to recruit Ruben Amorim, looks like the former Manchester United manager doesn't fancy the Benfica job, that Marco Silva is very much at the forefront of their thinking. They can't offer financially anywhere near the package that Fulham are offering, but it's Benfica, obviously Scott's former club, one of the big guns in Portugal. They can offer European football next season, which Fulham can't. I'm told that Marco Silva called his first team coaching staff into a meeting at the training ground earlier this week, and some people within the corridors of power at Craven Cottage have taken that as a signal that he is about to depart. Nothing definitive. He's certainly not relayed that decision to the board as yet, but I think they're running out of patience. I'm told they want a decision one way or another from Marco Silva by the end of this month, which is only a few days' time, because, of course, they've got to start planning for next season. I wonder if he does leave, if someone like Kieran McKenna at Fulham comes into their thinking.
Now, Scott's in a unique position to address this one. Where would you rather be? The King's Road or the beaches of Lisbon? You tell me.
Well, I have been on both, to be honest with you. I'd just like to correct Crookie a little bit. The biggest club in Portugal and one of the biggest clubs in Europe. But look, it's just a shame, really, for Benfica. It's in one of the smallest leagues. But honestly, Hugh and Crookie, the lowest attendance I played in front of, I think, was about 60,000, and then with the big games there was 80,000. If it's Marco Silva's club as a boy, then maybe it's his calling. I mean, if there's a difference between a good few million per year and actually you're losing money by not signing that contract, that tells me he's leaning towards waiting for a complete offer from Benfica. But I don't blame Fulham at all. The season's finished now. We need to know. We talked about West Ham not being decisive. Fulham are trying to be decisive. Let us know in the next few days, or we'll just try and get someone else.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for being with me. Scott Minto and Alex Crook joining me here on Kickoff this evening with the latest. If you're just joining us, breaking news on talkSPORT this evening. We understand that Elliot Anderson could be on his way to Manchester City. The club hopeful of getting a deal concluded for him by the time the World Cup kicks off. Of course, Elliot Anderson in Thomas Tuchel's 3 Lions squad. The latest on Nuno Espirito Santo and Marco Silva coming from Alex there. Breaking news on talkSPORT this evening. So thank you to Alex Crook. Thank you to Scott Minto as well. And we're going to get more on transfers very shortly here on talkSPORT. We'll be joined by our very own Ben Jacobs. Stay with us.
Now, Simon, you're going to enjoy this. Producer Luke from the other side of the glass, come on through. Ladies and gentlemen, Simon and I often talk about producer Luke. Here is producer Luke coming around here.
Can you just say your name, what you do in your life and everything, you know?
Tell us about the best.
Listen, I am. You did say if we win it, I've got to come in and apologise. So I'm doing that. I'm holding my word. So. Manu, I'm sorry. Come on the Arsenal. There you go.
Don't be sorry to me. Be sorry to the Arsenal fans everywhere in the world.
Me and every other Arsenal fan. We're all losing faith. You too as well.
Good man. Good man.
Well done. He's a man of his word, which counts for a lot these days.
I tried to forget this morning anyway. So,
first and foremost, on a serious note, Simon and I spoke about it last week. Obviously. What does it mean to you? I mean, how did you react in Paris?
I watched the game, you know, every single game the last couple of weeks, and I watched the game City against Everton, and I thought after the halftime, I thought they're running the game, they're leading the score, it's over, you know, it's gonna be until the end, and then Everton did a great second half, and they deserve to at least get a point. I thought they should have won that game, but anyway. After that game, Arsenal were champion. So I received so many text messages, you know, that night, you know, from people here in England, around the world.
Tell us, give us some names. Who texted you? If you can.
Were right. You're 20 years waiting, you know, it's such a long time. We deserve it. It's such a great day for Arsenal, for the club, for everyone's. But I was thinking, but how many were positive, you know, for the last couple of months? I've heard so many critics even from the fans, from pundits, from the players, and I was thinking, hell, what's going on? Is it something against Arsenal? But
especially your mate Vieira, he's been quite negative. Even when you won it yesterday, he couldn't quite bring himself to give it all of it. Yes, of course, if they win the Champions League, they will be remembered as the biggest achievements. But not the biggest team, not the best team.
Oh, really? With Patrick having a day?
Compared to the Invincible?
Compared to you guys, yeah. Or compared to the Invincibles, yeah.
When you think about famous F1 circuits, the likes of Silverstone, Monza, Monaco come to mind. One of these is not like the others though. Monaco is just one of a number of street circuits on the calendar, and that number's only set to rise. There's a clear difference between a traditional circuit and a street circuit. One is a purpose-built facility on private land, the other is, as it sounds, a race through the streets of a major city. Monaco is the famous example, twisting and turning through the streets of the Principality with iconic backgrounds and, let's be honest, not a lot of overtaking. But from 2026, there'll be a record 10 street circuits on the calendar. It proves that cash remains king. Each track promoter gives F1 between $20 and $60 million just for the rights to host an F1.
Get ready to get the ultimate football fan winning feeling with talkSPORT Win.
So we are into the final week with the 2026 FIFA World Cup almost here. Thanks to Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier, talkSPORT sending you and a friend to Dallas, Texas. You could be at England's first game against Croatia on June the 17th with return flights, accommodation, spending money, tickets, and the official Adidas match ball, the Trionda, all thrown in. Ready to get that winning feeling? Here's how to enter. For your chance to win, head to talksportwin.com or text WIN to 83338. Text and online entries cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or you can call 0343 418 7260. Entries must be in by 4 p.m. on Monday. That's when you're going to need to answer your phone. It's 18 plus, UK residents only. It is a talkSPORT promotion. Full T's and C's at talksportwin.com. For your chance to win, text 83338 now. So, we've already had some transfer rumours this evening. Elliot Anderson could be on his way to Manchester City. Let's find out about what else is going on around the world of football. The transfer window very soon going to be open. Ben Jacobs, talkSPORT reporter, joins us now. Good evening.
Good evening.
Let's talk Aaron Wan-Bissaka, maybe the first cab off the rank when it comes to departures at West Ham United this summer. Could he be on the move?
Yeah, West Ham need to raise money now they've gone down. Some say 100 million, others 150 million. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka doesn't really make a huge dent into that number, but it's certainly a sale that West Ham are prepared to sanction. And Everton are one of the interesting parties. I'm told that the fee that West Ham would sanction is between 8 and 10 million pounds. And then, of course, we need to understand Matheus Fernandes, another West Ham player who would command a much higher fee, and he could maybe make a bigger imprint into what West Ham need in order to balance the books. And we know that Manchester United have considered him, and PSG also have Matheus Fernandes on their radar as well. So it's going to be a busy summer for West Ham. They need to clarify Nuno Espirito Santo's future as well. But perhaps the first movements that we'll see are clubs taking advantage, or trying to anyway, of West Ham's relegation by making some opportunistic moves, because it's pretty clear to the industry that West Ham now desperately needs some sales.
I think £8 to £10 million is fair for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Got experience, got international and European experience as well. It's a low fee for a Premier League player with that much experience, I think. So it could be good in terms of that right-back position at Everton. Nathan Patterson's had his injury troubles. We know Seamus Coleman's retiring as well. So it could be a good addition for their squad, I think. When it comes to Matheus Fernandes, the only thing I want to ask you, Ben, is how much West Ham want, because they spent in excess of £40 million for him. I know that doesn't all go out the door at once, but it's going to be owed at some point to Southampton. And obviously, they can't command too much, can they, by way of a fee, given they've just been relegated?
Well, the advantage West Ham have is that there's no relegation release clause. The disadvantage is you go down and people will try and take advantage of that. The exact fee was £38 million and 4 million in add-ons, and give or take, West Ham, as you'd expect this early in the window, have been telling clubs in the build-up towards the end of the Premier League season, if you want to do business, you've got to put double what they paid on the table. So give or take, including add-ons, 80 million. My understanding is that clubs, even before West Ham went down, felt like 50, 55, maybe add-ons on top might be good enough. In other words, over a short period of time, give West Ham something like a 15 or 20 million profit, and that might get it done. And I think that a deal now will more likely start with a 5 or a 6 in terms of millions, 50 or 60, of course, as opposed to the 8 that maybe West Ham say they're looking for. But I think at this stage it's ambitious, it's unlikely, and there's an element of grandstanding that you would anticipate before West Ham were officially down. But now they're a championship club. To quote people, 80 million, it feels to me unrealistic.
What next for Jack Grealish? We saw him this week back inside the Manchester City family, if you like, helping with that departure and that huge event that was held to say goodbye to Pep Guardiola. Does he have a new lease of life in a City shirt with a new manager coming through the door?
It's possible. I mean, Enzo Maresca, and he did this with, for example, Raheem Sterling in pre-season, wants to bring everyone back and set the tone, saying it doesn't matter what the past is or even your age is, you stand an opportunity to impress me. And Maresca in particular loves wingers of the profile like Jack Grealish. Now, with Raheem Sterling, all pre-season, in his first pre-season, Maresca raved about him. And then there was clearly an ownership message saying because of the wage and the age, Sterling had to be moved on. It's a bit different at Manchester City, and as a consequence, a slightly older player like Jack Grealish will be given an opportunity to either play his way back into the squad or, in doing so, raise his valuation. Everton would like to sign Jack Grealish. Financially, it's quite complicated. They've not ruled out a permanent signing, but nowhere near the 45 or 50 million that Manchester City would like. There is a halfway house, though, where Grealish trains, plays under Maresca, sees whether he can impress, and then a bit later in the summer, Everton are prepared to be patient and also explore another loan. And that might allow Jack Grealish to see whether he can convince Enzo Maresca that he's going to get regular game time, and if not, still end up back at Everton. The only caveat to a loan is Manchester City would like some form of obligation or conditional obligation that's easily met if they're to sanction another season-long loan. And financially speaking, that is Everton's preference unless Man City's asking price comes down.
Two England internationals I want to ask you about. Anthony Gordon reports that he was going to be on his way out of the Premier League, and Villa fans won't want to hear rumours that Morgan Rogers may be leaving Villa Park. What's the latest?
I think Morgan Rogers will go, and part of that is Aston Villa. So Rogers is not agitating for a move. He loves Emery. He's got Champions League football. So when you spell it out like that, I can understand why Aston Villa fans think, why would the club even consider sanctioning a sale? But it's about peak interest, peak age, and still having to balance the books as far as PSR is concerned, and also UEFA's financial fair play. So when Rodgers signed a new deal last year, it was only actually a one-year extension, and all parties felt like this summer might be the right time so Villa can bring in one big fee and then be very aggressive with that money in the market and satisfy the books at the same time. Arsenal and Chelsea and Manchester United are the three leading Premier League clubs at this stage. And you can also throw a historical interest from Liverpool in there, but they're not moving as it stands. And then from outside of the Premier League, another club to keep an eye on is PSG. I sense that PSG's priority is Yan Diomande, and then Bradley Barcola could be sold, but they face competition for Diomande from Liverpool as well. So if they don't get Diomande, maybe they turn their attention to Rodgers, who can play on the left-hand side or through the centre. But the appeal of Diomande is PSG would really like a right winger that can switch sides, and Rodgers is more a number 10 or a left winger. The asking price is likely to start at 80 million. If there's a bidding war, maybe Aston Villa will ask for even more. With Anthony Gordon, Bayern are in direct talks with Newcastle. There's about a 20 to 25 million gulf in valuation. Bayern would like to do the deal for about 50 to 55 million, and Newcastle United want 75 million or more. Gordon is sold on the move, even though he'll be competing with the informed Luis Diaz. But there is some Premier League interest as well. Liverpool have had a historical interest in Gordon. They nearly did the deal in summer 2024, and Arsenal could be another club to watch as well. So Gordon is likely, if not almost certainly, going to leave Newcastle United. And the only club at the moment I can rule out, despite links, is Barcelona. Their focus is on trying to get Marcus Rashford over the line.
Two managers. We mentioned one, Enzo Maresca. How close is his deal to City? And Andoni Iraola, what's his future going to be?
Well, Enzo Maresca's agreed a 3-year deal at Manchester City. It's done. He's already working on recruitment. It's just a case of formalising the exit with Chelsea, which is for Maresca to ultimately rectify, because when he resigned, there's a spillover and legal obligations. And as a consequence, Chelsea will be owed some form of compensation. Man City may get involved. They may speak directly to Chelsea. They may compensate Maresca for any money paid. And then, of course, there's backroom staff as well. Pep Linders and several other names, including Kolo Touré, were confirmed as leaving Manchester City today. the expectation is that Willy Caballero, the goalkeeping coach, becomes Enzo Maresca's assistant, as he was at Chelsea. And all of that is being finalised before a formal announcement. And I think, in truth, Maresca didn't really want to steal Pep's thunder. He was quite comfortable with Pep being announced as leaving. A gap, and thereafter he will come in, and he's known for quite some time, certainly since the March international break, that this job was his. With Andoni Iraola, it's still no decision on what he wants to do, but there's 3 clubs at the time we're live anyway. One is Milan, who sacked Max Allegri, and there was another meeting today between Iraola and Milan, and I'm told Zlatan Ibrahimovic in particular likes the idea of Iraola coming in, but Crystal Palace is still there and pushing very hard, and they've taken some encouragement after Xabi Alonso joined Chelsea, because Iraola was the other candidate there. And Bayer Leverkusen in Germany, another club tracking Iraola as well. So as he said publicly after Bournemouth fantastically finished in 6th place, he was going to have a holiday, take his time, then make a final determination. And my expectation, therefore, is in the next maybe 7 to 10 days, we'll get some clarity as to Iraola's direction of travel. But he is a man in demand.
Life already getting very busy for Ben Jacobs. It's going to be another transfer window. We're going to keep you right up to date with every moment of it here on talkSPORT. Ben, thank you very much indeed. Up next, we're going to take a look back at a very warm weekend at Wembley, the 3 playoff finals that just went by. Of course, all exclusive on the talkSPORT network. That's next.
I don't think Roy appears to be in any mood to say he was wrong, because on his Instagram account, Keane shared a photo of a donkey with 2 lions in the background, and it had a caption of "Too much attention makes a donkey think he's a lion." So that doesn't appear to be Roy backing down, does it?
Does he have to back down then? By whose standards does he have to back down?
If you quoted somebody and you quoted them wrongly, and they hadn't said what you thought they'd said, you'd man up, wouldn't you?
Probably.
You'd front up.
Probably, because I think it would give me more strength to be right than in a different instance than being wrong and standing with it. Because if I was wrong, I still think that Fernandes is a weak leader. I think he's a good player. I think he's a good player in an average Manchester United side. And I think you'll win nothing with him of significance. And they really haven't won very much. But that doesn't alter the fact that Fernandes is, I think he's better than he was 2 or 3 years ago. I think myself and Souness used to sit on this show going, never win anything with people like Fernandes. That's not a leader. Keane's a leader. Souness was a leader. I'll have those guys all day. And yes, I know they belong to a different era and a different generation, and an era and different generation that we should long lament for, because it's brand of modern day football. And no, thank you very much.
Roy's a club legend, yeah. Do you think he's become a bitter club legend?
No, not really. I think he's set in his ways. I think he harks back to a time when United were, as I said, strode across English football with all the swagger. And I think he doesn't like the idea of them being an also-ran. And and he's basically saying, a day of a lion or life of a lamb, whatever it is. They're lambs. They're lambs. This Man United guys. They can't even breathe the same rarefied air as the Man United teams of the previous. So I think there's an element of that. I think people look at things and go, like I do sometimes, look at people going, how have you got? I hate people getting rewarded for mediocrity. I hate people getting things they don't really merit. And today's society hands it to them and lionises people. And I think Roy's a little bit like that. Now, I think it would be better for him to go, you know what? It's a strength to turn around and go, on this instance, I got it wrong, but I still think you're flake. I'll take that from him. So he should, but he won't. And that's part of the appeal of Roy Keane, that he will stand. You can listen to the other ones, like Ian Wright, that never say anything about anything, or you can listen to Roy Keane. I love Roy Keane all day. I love him all day, and every now and again, he'll say something that he shouldn't say, or row back, or won't row back from something he has said. And you can draw your own opinion on him, and you can conclude that that might be a limitation of Roy, and he should do this. Who says he should? We?
near post. Comes to McBurney! Off the goalkeeper and in! He rips his shirt off and runs away in celebration. Ollie McBurney may just have sent Hull to the Premier League.
That is it. Bolton's day beneath the Wembley Arch. From the brink of going out of existence to being back in the second tier, Bolton are promoted to the Championship.
And Notts County, the oldest professional club in the world, have done it and got back to the third tier of English football for the first time in 11 years, and they've done it emphatically.
Nobody does it like us on the talkSPORT network when it comes to Championship, League One and League Two.
Yes, all three Wembley finals exclusively live for you on the talkSPORT network. We brought you Hull at beating Middlesbrough by 1-0 thanks to Ollie McBurney's stoppage time goal. Bolton, I think, got the rub of the green, but definitely deserved their 4-1 win against Stockport. Maybe it was a wider scoreline than the game suggested, but they were certainly very good value for their win. And Notts County dominated Salford City with a 3-0 victory. They went up to League One. So Bolton back in the Championship, Hull in the Premier League, Notts County in League One. I'm delighted to say our very own, the former Millwall striker, Tony Cascarino's come into the studio. How are you?
Hiya, Shaban. You okay?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
No, I was next door, and I thought I'd drop in and see Hugh.
Yeah, Tony was at a Times event this evening, a preview for the World Cup, exactly, alongside some of his esteemed colleagues from the Game podcast with the Times. So make sure you check it out wherever you get your podcasts. And listen, before we get to the playoffs, how was it?
It was great.
What was your big prediction for the World Cup? Because I know they ask you guys to kind of, what do you think will go down?
Well, there was a question and answers at the end. And one of the questions, about all the teams that have won the World Cup, is there a team who have never won it, who can win it? And I thought that was an interesting question. So you look across, Africa, you go, could it be Morocco, Senegal? Asia, could it be Japan? And of course, it's very, very unlikely. And a number of European teams, South American teams as well. But just that idea of, the only winners. I think there's 8 winners, isn't there, of the World Cup?
Would you maybe go Portugal?
I think that was mentioned.
Yeah,
that was a great shout.
That's the key one, probably going into this World Cup. They've got a very good squad. Who've never won it before, but yeah.
Do you think the fact that Diaz is a bit like John Stones, not played enough football? Ruben Diaz, because he's a great centre-half. But, forward-wise, they've got a lot of talent.
Tony, you know why I'm putting my money on Portugal for this World Cup?
Oh, are you?
I am.
Right, okay.
The moment I saw Cristiano Ronaldo having dinner with Donald Trump at the White House, I thought he's going to have a great summer at the World Cup. So I'll just leave it there, Tony. Let's talk playoffs, shall we?
Yeah.
Listen, firstly on Hull City.
Yeah.
Back in the Premier League. Just showing what the playoffs are all about, right? Snuck in on the final day into the top 6. They had a very good season. They'd actually fallen away in that last part of the campaign, but got the victory on the final day that saw them take 6th place. They won both games against Millwall. They kept a clean sheet once again in the final at the weekend against Middlesbrough. Yeah, all 3 games. You can't take it away from them. It was it wasn't a great game, but over the course of the playoffs, they did exactly what needed to be done.
Well, Hugh, I was working on the game for talkSPORT at the Den, and I was so impressed with Hull City. And look, Millwall didn't play well, but they played the 3 at the back brilliantly well. Hughes, Egan, and just really dominated that area on the pitch and caused Millwall problems. I actually said on the weekend, I think Hull will get the better of Middlesbrough. And I know it was a late goal. Middlesbrough dominated possession. We're not really, as we worked on the Middlesbrough game, didn't we?
Yeah.
Up there with when Millwall played them. Middlesbrough just were not a clinical team. No. They couldn't find goals. Whittaker had sort of scored a lot of goals early on this season, but not so much in the end. Conway had got injured, so another issue for them. But if any team needed a goal scorer, if Ollie McBurney had played for Middlesbrough would be in the Premier League now.
Yeah. It was one of those seasons for them. Created chance after chance after chance. I think on the weekend, they didn't create a number of chances, but they had that line share of possession and couldn't do anything with it. And I think it changes so much. You see it in all the playoff finals year after year. I often say going into them, the teams that keep possession best usually have a tough time at Wembley. We were watching a game at the weekend from the crowd, and I said, look how much the Hull players are moving. Defensively, they didn't have to move their structure a lot. They weren't getting pulled side to side. It's hard for championship teams to really use the width well at Wembley in the heat, massive pitch. They couldn't move Hull out of position to create those opportunities to score goals. And in the end, I have to say, a mistake from Solberg. He will not want to see it again. But too many times this season, he's had issues like that.
Yep.
Drops of the feet at McBurney. And it showed, I think, the manager's decision to keep him on the pitch. McBurney, he's been your talisman all year.
Yeah.
He was flagging in the heat. We know fitness isn't his strong point. But he kept on for that final moment and he got the key moment. And at the other end of the pitch, I think Kim Hellberg took David Strelec, their number 9, off too early. He put Whittaker through the middle, who already hadn't had a good game until that point and was fairly anonymous after that. And those two decisions, I think, were the key decisions on the afternoon.
I just was impressed with how Hull went about their business and in a very methodical way. Didn't really overload in forward areas. 2 wingers, both apparently had, hamstring issues, Balumi, and that showed. But they're a dangerous side. Now the big question mark is, now they've gone up, is what can they do as a football club to reinforce their chances of staying in the Premier League?
Actually,
it's a massive ask.
He's told us he's not going to be silly. He's not going to break the bank. It's a very difficult job going into the Premier League, as we know. I think they're going to do something similar to what Leeds have done. They're going to go big, strong and quick, and they're going to look for athletes that can help close the gap, because we know how physically demanding the Premier League is, and I think that's going to be very important for them.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see if they stay with the 3 at the back at the approach for the Premier League. Yeah. That'd be interesting because, not conceding goals, and look, Burnley did it the season before. They got promoted and did it very well. But there's one thing keeping clean sheets in the Championship. It's another thing doing it in the Premier League. You've always got a player, Hugh, who's going to produce a brilliant moment. And that's the danger.
Tony, we've already kept you this evening. Can we keep you for 15 more minutes? We're going to talk England
What
squad.
are we talking about?
England squad. We're going to hear from Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yes, love to.
Yeah,
love to.
Okay, Tony Cascarino, former Millwall striker, is going to stay with us. And remember, for more on the EFL playoffs, you can listen to myself and Adrian Clark on EFL All Access. Get it wherever you get your podcast from. Search EFL All Access on the talkSPORT app as well. We'll be back straight after this.
Let's get back to some calls. Go to Darren. He's a Spurs fan. Right, Daz?
Right, Daz.
Hi. How are you, Daz?
Relieved. I'm not celebrating like some of the fans that have come on from Spurs. I think they're ridiculous. The only thing I did when the whistle went, I turned to my mates who I go with every time, and we said we're relieved, and we walked out the stadium because we just had enough. And the way fans are behaving, and calling out Chelsea, that's ridiculous. We finished 17th. They finished 10th.
Yeah, they won nothing.
Hang on a minute.
They won nothing, though.
So did we.
Yeah, exactly.
We won nothing.
Exactly. Yeah, but we're a disgrace, and so are they.
Yeah, but we are more of a disgrace. And the way Tottenham fans are behaving is ridiculous.
I agree with him.
Well, you will agree with him.
No, you're speaking. He's the first one that's phoned up talking any sense.
Dazza, right? It's a shocking season, but it's over. It's over. Season's over. We're up. Cheer up.
It's over. It's an embarrassment. What do you think people like Glenn Hoddle look when they look at that side?
I know. Well, they've got to sort it out, haven't they?
Legends of the club.
Well, they've got to sort it out, though, Daz, haven't they? Got to start again.
Yeah, they've got to sort it out, but there's no good when fans are turning around like we've won a cup. It's ridiculous.
The stayed-up trophy.
Good trophy, that, though, Daz.
The inaugural. Well done.
No, it's good trophy, that. The staying-up cup.
Yeah, it should be a toilet bowl. It should be a toilet bowl because that's what it was. It was toilet. It was. They should have stayed in the toilet where most of those players came from.
Holding up a toilet. Silver toilet.
That's a good trophy, that.
Holding that up a lot.
Get a picture of that.
Yeah. Someone will AI that.
Staying up trophy.
Someone will AI that and send it to us, mate.
Yeah. It's unbelievable stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, Daz, enjoy it, mate. It's up. It's over. We can all relax now. Got the World Cup coming up.
He's the only one under a rock.
Just relax.
The only one. Only one that's got any. Only one that's got anything about him. Only Spurs fan today.
Corinthian Casuals are a team in the Combined Counties League Premier Division South. Despite that, they're one of the most important clubs in world football. Here's why. The club was formed in 1939 as the result of a merger between Corinthians FC and Casuals FC. Now, Corinthians FC were founded in the late 1800s when the FA's top brass were sick of getting pumped by Scotland every time they played them. As a result, a man called Nicholas Lane Jackson set up an amateur side which would bring in the best players who could all play for the national side. And it worked. It wasn't long before England were dominating the international fixtures they played, and it was largely down to Corinthians. In fact, in 1894 and 1895, they played consecutive games where Corinthians provided the entire England 11. But the thing is, the players refused to play professional football. They didn't believe in it. They wanted to spread the values of sportsmanship, competition, and played for the love of the game. It also helped that most of the players were Oxbridge graduates who didn't need the money. But instead of entering the league and cup competitions, they played exhibition football and toured the world, bringing the beautiful game with them. And it was this which spread the game throughout the world and made it so popular. Most famously, in 1910, they travelled to Brazil. And the locals in Sao Paulo were so impressed, they started their own team under the same name. Yes, the same Corinthians who won the FIFA Club World Cup in 2021, one of the biggest football teams in Brazil. Now, they were global superstars, and despite not being professional, Corinthians drew in the crowds. Everybody wanted to play them, everybody wanted to watch them. So much so, they regularly played the winners of the FA Cup in what eventually became the Community Shield, winning most of the time. They actually inflicted Manchester United's worst defeat, 11-3, a record which still stands to this day. Now, fast forward to today, Corinthian Casuals still don't pay their staff or players. The ethos of sportsmanship is still at the heart of everything that they do. And even though
You're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT with myself, Hugh Woozencroft. We'll be talking the England squad with Tony Cascarino in a few moments' time, and we'll hear more from Morgan Gibbs-White, his thoughts on missing out on the England squad. We'll discuss our team for Croatia, the first game in the World Cup on the 17th of June. Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy will be here, looking ahead to the sports bar as well from 10 p.m. You're listening to Kick Off. I'm Hugh Woozencroft, alongside the former Republic of Ireland international Tony Cascarino. So totally neutral when it comes to discussing England, which is good.
Yeah.
Because otherwise people might send us, criticisms and abuses for your Republican violence.
We'll get them anyway.
Yeah, it's true. 16 days until the start of the World Cup. Remember, before we get there, we'll have England's 2 international friendlies to acclimatise over in the United States. Saturday, the 6th of June, 9 p.m, England take on New Zealand. Wednesday, the 10th of June, also a 9 o'clock kickoff, England facing Costa Rica in Orlando. All of that before the first game of the World Cup, the 11th of June, as Mexico hosts South Africa. All of those games live here on talkSPORT. But the England squad, Tony, caused a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
As soon as it was announced. And for me, and I think for a lot of people, they felt like there was a lot of talent that was excluded from the England squad. And actually, it didn't make sense. A lot of the decisions didn't make sense to people. Thomas Tuchel's reasoning. Look, for me, there were a lot of good players in the England squad, and there's a good team in that England squad. I think the country felt a little bit left down because I think they thought they were going to see 26 names and it would jump off the page that we had a chance. I think they thought they'd see the 26 names and think, yeah, we're going to go there with as good a chance as any other nation. Actually, I think they saw the 26 names and the realisation hit them just how difficult it would be for England to win the World Cup. They feel like there should be a little bit more talent there, but I think there are good players, and you can't deny Thomas Tuchel the opportunity to pick his squad. He's the manager, so I can't deny that. But what I would say about his squad is he seems to have planned for every eventuality. It has all been about, well, if we're in this situation, a really niche probably situation, we might have to throw Dan Burn into the box and get a header, or we might need him to play left back if we have a couple of injuries in that area. All of these things seem to be, Ivan Toney, we might throw him on with Harry Kane. It's rare that these things are going to happen because, let's be honest, he's the third choice striker in the squad, Ivan Toney. So when are we going to be throwing him on with Harry Kane? Let's be realistic. If Ollie Watkins has come off the bench first, it's probably not going to happen, is it? So there were some very specific scenarios that he seems to be planning for. Now, you can say it's prudent, but I think the one scenario that he kind of neglected, or the one category that he didn't seem to just pick someone because they're in form. And Morgan Gibbs-White, for me, was that player that you had to pick just because he's on fire at the moment. That was the one category. He's planned for everything, but who's just ripping it up at the moment? Let's hear from Morgan Gibbs-White, because he was once again at the James Maddison Invitational a little bit earlier on. The Nottingham Forest midfielder was speaking to Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent and told us what he thought about why he'd missed out having spoken to Thomas Tuchel.
Going into it, I kind of expected the worst.
Yeah.
I always expect the worst in them sort of situations, just so that when it does come, I'm not that disheartened.
Of course.
Obviously, when you find out the news, you're disheartened no matter what. But yeah, you as a football player, you try so hard for these moments because they're just, when you retire, you're going to look back and miss out. You're going to really miss out on these moments. So I tried to put myself in the best possible contention I could, and I believe I did that, and I know in myself I did that. So I'm comfortable with knowing in myself that I did everything that I could do.
Of course.
And then obviously I can't dictate people's opinions. But no, it was a great chat with him and an honest conversation, and I respect him for calling me and telling me that I wasn't, because he didn't have to do that.
What do you think about the decision to leave Morgan Gibbs-White at home? I'm sure you spoke about it at the weekend. Was that the big omission for you?
No, I think he's in a scenario where there is a hell of a lot of number 10s or attacking midfielder that joins forwards and scores goals. You just only have to look at the names there. There's Morgan Rogers, there's Jude Bellingham. You could add in Eze, Cole Palmer, Phil Foden. There was about 6 of them vying for probably 3 places. So I wasn't surprised. And Morgan didn't have a great start to the season. He had a very good end. Now, are you going down the road of going players on form? I think he needed a bit more. And I'm glad that the way he spoke afterwards about being left out, because I think Thomas Tuchel would certainly appreciate how he's taken it and try to become a better player. Because Morgan Gibbs-White is a real talent. We all know that. You can see by the way he takes goals, the back heel that he got in the season, just moments player.
Yeah.
I just think, Hugh, that he was unfortunately a bit late at the party, even though he had a good end to the season.
Again, when you look at the squad, there are a number of players in attacking positions who the criticism I say criticism, but the assessment you made of Gibbs-White you could say for a lot of for a number of players in the England squad who haven't produced throughout the campaign, particularly in attacking positions. Madueke, Gordon, Rashford. There are some players in there who will probably start games for England who haven't lit up the league.
They're more natural wingers, though, aren't they?
But I'm just talking about in that squad in attacking positions. And in that case, what you're really saying is just the others in his position had probably produced too much for him to get in front of them. It wasn't necessarily the situation that he left it too late. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there are others who haven't shown up in the way that he's shown up at any point this season.
Look, managers sometimes have their favourites as well. Yeah. People they really think are important to the team. And I think Eze is sort of one of them, of why he got chosen, because he wasn't incredible for Arsenal. He was in and out of the team at periods during this course of this season. Again, I mean, only from reading what Thomas Tuchel had said about Eze in training and, the sessions they've had and feel like he's a developing player and feels he'll play a big part going to a World Cup. Now, them sort of challenges were Jack Charlton and Mick McCarthy's. I was with, and sometimes the players would say, he selected him instead of him. Well, which would surprise us. But there was a logic behind it. Now, is he overthinking everything, Thomas Tuchel? Maybe. Or can we just say he's not leaving any stone unturned?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you can say he's not leaving any stone unturned. I can't imagine this is not. I mean, there are a lot of players there who have been picked because they can play in multiple positions. Again, you could call it good forward planning, but the chances of that number of players needing to be used in multiple positions, I don't see. If you were Jude Bellingham or Harry Kane, how would you be feeling about the England squad? Those are England's two world-class players, if you like, alongside
Jude
Rice.
Jude might not get in the starting lineup. It's not a guarantee, Hugh. Morgan Rogers might start in front of him. You look at me like, I'm not convinced. Jude's had a season that's been interrupted by injury at Real Madrid, and Real Madrid have had a difficult season. Is Jude a good player? Yeah, he is a really good player. I get that. But Morgan Rogers, as we stand today, I would think would have the nod over Jude Bellingham at the moment. Now, that doesn't mean it can't change the time you get to a World Cup. But there's a lot of... I mean, would I have took Harry Maguire? Yes, I would have. I would have found a space for Harry Maguire. Would I have taken Jordan Henderson? I can see why he's thinking, the leadership qualities off the field and the influence on the team. I probably wouldn't have took him. I would have gone for, Walton. But that's an opinion. That's just an opinion of what we think he should do. I always say you can be genius and idiot as a manager, right? When it works, you're a genius, and when it goes wrong, you're an idiot. That's how most fans look at it. And Thomas Tuchel's took some high risks, but you have to applaud him for that because he's going with what he thinks is enough to take England as deep as they can.
Yeah. For me, it's a little bit of complacency because I think people know my thoughts on England.
Yeah.
I try and be as realistic as I possibly can. I know everyone wants to be screaming, we're going to win it and football's coming home and stuff like that. But I think we have to say England haven't played well for a while.
No, you're right.
Which is another reason why you kind of think, right, do we need more talent? Just in case we need a bit of an X factor off the bench. Do we need a Cole Palmer who maybe hasn't shown?
I don't think Cole done enough.
But just for an example, is there enough just pure quality in that England squad? A Bowen, whoever, people who have delivered more, like I say, over the course of the campaign than some of the ones that are there. Because, again, England aren't playing well, so who's doing it on a weekly basis in the Premier League or wherever? Bring those players.
Hugh, it doesn't really matter that much of the results they had in the friendlies. It doesn't matter that much. It will matter when you get to a tournament and knockout football. And I'll give you a scenario. Ivan Toney, he was selected for his qualities as leading the line as a big centre forward. France have done the same with Mateta. Brazil have done the same with Thiago. Selected big centre forwards. Didier Deschamps has done it in numerous tournaments, selected Giroud, Benzema, and Benzema was a high-rated scorer, and he was in the squad with Givash when they won in 98. So he's there's number of... Would you think that Brazil would go, we're going to go Thiago instead of Pedro? But they have. Ancelotti, one of the greatest coaches in world football, has gone, I'm going to take Thiago along.
So I'm being harsh on Thomas Tuchel.
There'll be fans in Brazil who will be saying, how can certain players not be chosen? He's selected Neymar. Now, Neymar, you could have argued, you thought finished a year ago. But apparently, with all his data, he's ticked all the boxes. This is the toughest job, is the manager of an international team that all the fans within that country think they should win it. England fans think they should win a World Cup. Brazil fans think exactly the same. And so do French fans. Right? So Argentinian fans think the same. German fans think the same. Dutch fans think the same. So, sorry, that's International World Cup. That's why it's so difficult to get it all right.
Yeah, okay, we'll see if Thomas Tuchel
That's enough from me.
We'll let you go home. Tony Cascarino, thank you very much for being with us. Of course, your co-host alongside Shaban Ahern every weekend breakfast, and of course, will be a big part of our World Cup coverage here on talkSPORT as well. We're going to look ahead to the tournament a little bit, maybe pick our starting 11 for that first game against Croatia. Stay with us on talkSPORT. About 2-3 players, right? And I get that Spurs miss out.
But that's the track record.
There's plenty of players out there
over the many
not
years.
lads from Middlesbrough who come off the bench in the playoff final. Like, do me.
Well, he was injured. He's been the best player in the Championship this season.
Yeah, I don't want to sign Championship players. Spurs don't need to sign Championship players. We've got Championship players. They've shown that. We've got Championship players.
Do you? I understand what you're saying. Hayden Hackney, I think, would be a good signing. He's been brilliant this season. But I understand what you're saying about actually you need to aim bigger than that on top of the Hayden Hackneys and that. But do you trust the owners enough?
No, I don't trust the owners.
I don't think it's down to the owners anymore. I think De Zerbi's got full control. I think he will be the one who's picking the players.
They still got to dip their hand in the pockets. Well, they've got to okay. They've got to sign off the contracts.
When they got rid of Daniel Levy, saying that they're going to spend money.
But that's my point.
Everyone was going to change the narrative, and it was sporting success that they were.
And then what happened in January? They went and sold. They went and sold Brennan Johnson for 30 mil. Brought in Conor Gallagher for 30 mil.
Net zero spend.
Well, it was net 12 with Sousa as well, but.
First team.
Exactly. My point is, and that's my point. So summer coming up, this is Tottenham Hotspur, and you can't get the Champions League players. It's not going to happen. But you can still attract with those big wages.
It's about
Alex Scott. They're the type of players.
Well, he came from the Championship.
Yeah, I know, but he's been in Bournemouth and he's top.
No, but they bought him from the Championship.
Yeah, but he's been playing in the Premier League.
Semenyo came. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you can be clever with your recruitment. Antoine Semenyo came from the Championship. Adam Wharton.
No, but the point
is about to win a European final.
Now.
Why not?
Because I don't want them. We've got to sign the Premier League players who are playing in the Premier League who have been top draw.
No.
Championship.
I think you're being a snob.
The point Jamie's making
is upgrading the squad now from where it is. They've had those middle ranking signings. They need polish to make them get over the line and pull them out of the situation they're in. Here's a question for
Michael Elise's done all right coming out of the Championship.
Go back to
who did he go to? Went to Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And then went to Bayern Munich.
Crystal Palace finished above you. They're in a European final.
Yeah, but you don't sign. We don't need players from the Championship.
You do.
Rookie. No, we don't.
You need a rebuild.
We don't need a rebuild from the Championship.
You don't need big time Charlies coming in.
What are you talking about? It's not big time Charlies. You've got to find the right prospect. But you don't sign a player from the Championship. We've got Championship players. We finished 17th.
I think you're being harsh, and I think you're being a snob.
You're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT. I am Hugh Woozencroft. We were talking England a few moments ago with our good friend Tony Cascarino, and a little bit later on in the hour, we're going to name our 1 to 11 for England's opening game against Croatia. So give us a text on 81089. Let us know who you would select if you were Thomas Tuchel for England's first match and it's an important one against Croatia. First game. I'll give you my 11 a little bit later on. We'll talk England more this hour as well, because earlier you heard a bit from James Maddison on Drive. Now, of course, he has been out of the England fold for a bit. He's not on his way to the World Cup. Still, though, ecstatic that Spurs, his club, have stayed in the Premier League on the final day of the season. He was speaking to Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent. Let's hear a little chunk of that interview right now.
James Maddison, welcome to Drive Time. How are you?
Very good, mate, yeah. Pretty tired, long day.
It has been a long couple of days for you. Firstly, congratulations on another great invitational golf day. And well done on sorting out the weather, because for the last 2 years it has been awful here. But today, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better day, right?
No, if anything, I've had people moaning it was too hot.
Yeah,
which is ironic. Ironic. When last year we were crying for it because it was raining. But no, it's been a great day, mate.
It's been a tough day as well, because I'm guessing someone like yourself, who's in charge of it and very hands-on, you can't just play golf.
No, I've done, honestly, about 50 interviews. I'm sick of the sound of my own voice.
Sorry.
This is the last one. This is the last one I've got. I promised you.
Save the best.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you presenting from here. So, yeah.
Okay. How did you play today?
Played all right, you know. Played pretty well. I hit a wall back 9. I hit a wall. I was hitting it well.
A lot of people saying that, where the tequila bit was, right?
Yeah.
Is that where the wall was hit?
Yeah. It was a DJ at the halfway, and I probably spent a little bit too long there with the old tequila going around. But
you hit a bit of a wall. You're playing with Noel. He's come on as well.
Yeah.
He said you're both pretty good today.
Yeah, no, we played pretty well in patches, but then the bad was pretty bad as well. So
a tough course, right?
Tough course.
Do you play a lot or not?
Yeah, I do actually, but I still can't figure it out to try to shoot lower. But how did you play? You play all right?
I played okay. I was happy. I'm playing off 18. I was playing bogey golf for most of it.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
That's pretty standard.
You mean in a good way?
No, but bogey golf, that's your handicap, isn't it?
Yeah, I was playing to my handicap.
Okay.
That was good, and it's a really tough course, so...
Okay.
Golf's not for you, Bentley.
Nah, I would have played if I was invited.
No, he wouldn't have played. He's picked up a golf club once in his life. Today, because we're going to find out a bit later on the results of his drive. He claimed on our show 2 months ago, when I was talking about golf, he went, I'll drive 300 yards, and I went, you won't. So he's driven today. We don't know how.
Oh no, Bentley.
Not 200.
That's going to come back to bite you.
And then I changed it. I retracted it and said I can just outdrive him. So maybe not 300, but I can outdrive him.
Oh, and are the results in?
We've got them coming up.
Yeah,
between now and 7 o'clock. So who's your money on?
I'll tune in.
Okay.
I'll tune in.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Let's talk about this season. It's been a tough old season for Tottenham, right?
Yeah.
But thankfully, you're still in the Premier League. You came on towards the back end of the season, literally last couple of games. Before we talk about Tottenham, let's talk about you. How tough was it for you? Because it's been a long-term injury you've been out with. Everything's absolutely fine now. I'm guessing it is because you're back.
Yeah, feeling really good. Yeah. Weirdly, a little bit frustrating for me that the season's ending, actually, because obviously I've worked so hard to get back fit for the last few games off the bench. Probably played about 40 minutes in total in the season with them last 3 cameos. So it's a little bit annoying how the season ends now, but I think everyone at the club was kind of ready for it when I'm thinking about the club instead of me personally, just because obviously it was a tough, long season. A lot of bad results, managerial changes, but the most important thing in the end was just steering clear of the danger that was relegation, and we managed to do that.
I've got a lot of mates of mine that Spurs fans, and they all told me that when you were coming off the bench, there was a lift at White Hart Lane. All the fans were getting very excited. Did you notice that? I know this might be not necessarily easy for you to go, yeah, when I come on, everyone looks excited. But did you know that there was a lift towards the back end of the season when you were getting on the...
Yeah, but I'd been out for such a long time that was... I kind of expected that, maybe not to the level that the reception they gave me on my first game back, but if Kulusevski came back, he'd get the same.
Yeah.
I think that when you're out for that long and the fans don't see you for that long, especially when you're an attacking player, I feel like the attacking players always get a little bit more
love,
a little bit more excitement about you being back. If a centre half coming back from a long injury, it's probably not as exciting because they're not the goal scorers. But no, I'm truly grateful for the reception they gave me, because it was amazing for me and my family to experience that. Yeah.
James, I've got to say, I mean, by Spurs standard, of course, we know it wasn't a great season, but what was that feeling like in the dressing room afterwards, when all the emotions not gone, but you've gone inside now, you have survived? What was that emotion like in the dressing room?
Just pure relief, mate.
Yeah,
pure relief. Like, a few people were questioning why we were celebrating almost. We wasn't celebrating joy and happiness. It was relief, mate. It was a massive pressure game. There was a lot on the line, so we prepared for it like we prepared for the Europa League final. You know what I mean? There was that much on the line, if not more, probably.
Yeah.
So the celebrations at the end, which obviously the the fun police come out and have a little bit of a go out was more relief, just the fact that we have managed to dig deep and get that last win, because I knew West Ham would win against Leeds. You could feel it. West Ham at home. West Ham have got great fans as well. We knew that place would be rocking and they'd probably get a result, so we knew we had to get something. And
when you were playing in that last game of the season, you were 1-up and then West Ham scored. Did you know on the pitch?
I was warming up and there was a fella behind me who just went, Madders, West Ham scored.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like, I just said, calm, mate, we're 1-0 up, just don't even worry about that. And then he said, Madders, West Ham are 2-0 up. And I was like, mate, I just told you, just calm down.
Stop talking.
But we managed to.
Yeah, it turned out good. Listen, before we let you go, we know you're a very busy boy. Let's talk about why we are here. This year it's all about Dementia Club UK. Why is that so important to you?
For my granddad, for my dad's old man. He had Alzheimer's for about 15 years, just shy, and he suffered and he struggled. Yeah, it was tough to see him, especially at the final stages. He wasn't the man that we grew up as granddad. So I know personally firsthand how much that disease and dementia in general can affect people and families. And I like to change the charity every year, so I'm not just doing the same one every year, because we raise an unbelievable amount of money. And I think I like to diversify where it goes, kind of thing, but try and keep it close to me so I can keep the motivation to do it, you know. And my dad's in there today. We put together a lovely video. Found some old cine film of my granddad playing golf, which was on the announcement video, which we didn't even know we had, which was amazing. And we're about to have the auction, so hopefully we can raise some funds in something that feels like it's close to my heart.
Yeah, it's a fantastic cause, because my grandmother now, my dad's mum, she's got it. And as you said there, you said some words there that will kind of resonate with me, that she's just not the grandma that I remember in terms of her personality and stuff. So listen, it's a fantastic cause, and yeah, I hope you raise loads and loads of money.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that.
Thank you for coming on. Thanks for inviting us down again. That's very kind of you. A lot of people have said, because you're going to give out some awards, one will be whoever played the best, they got the best score compared to the handicap. A lot of people have said, yeah, we've got a chance this year. There's no John Terry, so he won't be cheating, right? So he plays off like 3, but apparently when he turns up, he's like, yeah, I'm a 9 or an 8.
Yeah,
but he's not here this year.
No, he's not. But he sends his best wishes.
Yeah, I bet he does. Yeah, his name's on the trophy twice, right? Do you know who's won it?
I don't yet.
Okay, who's your money on?
Because we've got to have food first, and then I think I'm going to find out, because
who's your money on?
Josh Denzel, who normally presents the awards, is not here, so I'm going to have to present the award myself. Yeah,
You're going to be presenting.
So I don't actually know the winner yet. Genuinely, I'm going to go and find out.
You could be presenting it to yourself. The winner is me.
No, that's impossible. That'd be.
No, not you.
I don't think it's me. I don't think it's you by the sounds of it.
No, it's definitely not me.
So yeah, let's wait to see him.
Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you, mate.
I love your work.
Are you going to come in for some food?
I'll be honoured to come in. Yeah, it'd be great.
You're always welcome, mate. All right.
He won't. If you'll get him to agree to go, you're a better man than I am. Go and ask him now live.
Bentley, come on. Do you want to come in and have some food?
Go and ask him if he's coming.
I'm coming in. Yeah, I'm coming in.
Coming in?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Top man.
See you in a bit then, yeah?
All right, James, you ain't seen him again. Not in a million years. Thank you, Matters. Great turnout for the James Madison Invitational today. Loads of famous faces around the course. Obviously, we heard from Morton Gibbs-White a little bit earlier on, so a few of the Tottenham players. Archie Gray we spoke to as well, but yeah, the great good actors. Stephen Graham was with us a little bit earlier on as well, comedians, everything. So yeah, congratulations to James Madison for another great day. That was Spurs midfielder there on Drive with Andy Goldstein and Darren Ben. Andy and Darren back tomorrow with Drive from 4 p.m. We're talking England's chances and their favourites for the World Cup, possibly. So we'll come to that a little bit later on. I'm going to speak to Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy after the break as well to look ahead to the sports bar. So stay with us for that. That's coming up very shortly.
I think from day one we were very clear that we are trying to select and build the best possible team, which is not necessarily to select and collect the 26 most talented players. Teams win championships, it's as simple as that. And what we are trying to achieve in summer can only be achieved as a team.
Is he right, Emmanuel?
I totally agree with him.
Team over talent.
You know, it's the same, when you manage a club, as a manager, the team spirit is more important than individuals. And we've seen that every single season when the team who won the big trophies, are always playing as a team, not as an individual. Individual are very important, but for me, the team is more important than individual. So as I said before, I was quite surprised in a good way when I look at the list, from Tuchel. And I thought to myself, maybe he's copying, what happened in France a long time ago, not so far away, when Aimé Jacquet became the manager for the national team. He decided to make strong choices, strong opinions, and he was under critics. A lot of people they were killing him, but I want to remind people that during the European tournament in 1996 here in England, France, we went until the semi-final. 2 years after that, we became world champion. And then 2 years after the World Cup, we became European champion. And from that, they played the final in 2016. They played the final in 2020 against Argentina, won the World Cup in Russia. The reason why I'm saying that is because when he took over, as a manager, he decided to take away, from the team, the lack of Cantona and Ginola. They were huge players. Both guys, they were huge personality, huge player on the pitch as well. They were to pick up their form, They could have done so much things, But Aimé Jacquet decided to say, no, I don't want them. The team is more important. So I would probably pick, less talented players up front, but that can fit into what I want as a team. And we became what we are actually for the last 15 years.
You're listening to Kick-Off on talkSPORT with myself, Hugh Woozencroft. I said a few moments ago, Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy were going to come and join us. They're late. They're not here as yet. So that takes me back to my original question where I asked, what's your biggest excuse for missing work? The good news, Anil Candola, you can give me yours.
Yeah,
you ever called in sick, just lying? You seem like the kind of guy.
I'm an honest man, Hugh, you know that, so never miss a day, especially when you're at talkSPORT.
Yeah, here you haven't missed work, but you've worked other places.
Yeah, many moons ago, maybe, just the odd sickie, but we're all human, aren't we?
I was pretty good at putting the old fake voice on. I perfected it by the end, to be perfectly honest.
Can we hear a bit now, or?
No, it's been a long time. I'm not going to ruin these dulcet tones by pretending I'm ill. No, but I've done it many a time. Listen, Anil, thank you for coming in to speak to me in the meantime, because we were going to talk Manchester United anyway this hour, so we're going to do it a little bit earlier on. Bruno Fernandes, pretty much at the moment a clean sweep of the end of season awards. He's broken the assist record in the Premier League. We, of course, both support Manchester United as well. He showed finally, I think, what so many people have spoken, the kind of words that people have used to describe him as in previous years. He actually lived up to this season, because I think it was kind of a little bit over-egged in previous campaigns about his impact on Manchester United, and the ability has always been there, but not consistently enough for me, the way that he was spoken about at least. But actually this season he backed it all up, and actually he was fantastic for the course of the campaign.
Yeah, I've been very critical of Bruno Fernandes' time at Manchester United. But look, you can't argue with his output this season, you know, to break that Premier League record. We've seen the likes of Mesut Ozil come so close with a number of games remaining and he just couldn't quite get over the line. We shouldn't underestimate that achievement that he's obviously managed to get over the line. Of course, there is a little bit of controversy around that final one that took him over the line. Was it an own goal? Was it not? But that's by the by. He's got the record. It's an incredible individual achievement. I just think the problem with what some fans would have is if that's your biggest celebration of the year, I think that's quite a telling and a bit of a reality check as to where Manchester United are, if that's the big, you know, the big story across all of their social media platforms.
The thing is, when people talk about writing off a season at a big club, that's what we saw this year. I mean, Manchester United wrote off this season. They made a decision to stick by Ruben Amorim, and this season was a write-off. The fact they've ended with Michael Carrick, who's been doing well, they've got some results, they've got back to the Champions League. For a club as big as Manchester United, it was still a waste of a season, in fact, because even if they were to appoint Michael Carrick at the start of the campaign, they could have got a lot more out of this season. If he'd have had a pre-season, for example, last summer, he'd been able to bring his own players in last summer, maybe we would have seen even more out of Manchester United. So it still feels like a wasted campaign. And as a Manchester United fan, I just don't think you can ever cheer finishing third in the league and winning no trophies. For me, that's never going to be a successful season.
Yeah, it's of course the same season where they were knocked out by Grimsby in one of the cups, you know, and the first opportunity of the respective competitions they were in, they were knocked out of. And it's a brilliant point that you make in terms of, you know, if there was a bit more of a strong outlook in terms of what we're getting from the ownership of Ineos, even if they were to get rid of Ruben Amorim a month earlier, that would have meant that Michael Carrick would have had the opportunities against Wolverhampton, Burnley and West Ham, 3 games against 3 sides who have struggled quite a lot this season, clearly, as we've seen. And that's 9 points. And I'm not for one second going to say that they would have won the league under Michael Carrick if he was in earlier, but that 9 points could get you up into second. And as you've said, from where they were to that is impressive. And, you know, it's the question about Michael Carrick, isn't it? And I'll put it back to you, Hugh, you know, I don't think people can argue with the fact that he's got the job, but I just question what was the process that Ineos went through in order to deem that Michael Carrick was the right man to take over.
Yeah, I've said it many, many times. Ineos have made the easy decision far too often. I just referred to sticking by Ruben Amorim at the start. I think that was the easy option. I think what he'd shown us was relegation form until that point. And I'll give it to Ruben Amorim. He started the season in a far better mode for Manchester United. They were picking up results. I don't think they played spectacularly well, but I think at least they were getting some results, which they hadn't done at all last year. So maybe given time, he could have been a much better manager than he showed us for Manchester United. I don't think he deserved that time on the basis of the results and the performances that Manchester United had put in. In the end, he talked his way out of a job. And when it comes to Michael Carrick, I just think you need a manager at Manchester United who can control Ineos to an extent. I don't feel like they've shown us. I think they've shown us on many occasions, in fact, they don't really know what they're doing. They're kind of just in the dark, trying to find the light switch, you know, feeling out there and whatever sticks. You know, if he can't get Ineos to provide him this summer with the kind of recruitment that he needs to take the team forward, then he's put himself in a losing position. Does he feel on solid enough ground, Michael Carrick, that he can go to Ineos and try and do that? And that's the reason I've said previously, if you do bring in, and people say who would you have brought in, but even a manager of more substantial experience at a higher level, maybe they could dictate to Ineos just a little bit about what they want. But instead, what we've seen is Ruben Amorim, who, you know, is a manager that won trophies previously. He couldn't get Ineos to bend to his will at all. Now Michael Carrick, who's a manager who probably wouldn't be managing in the Premier League if he wasn't an available former Manchester United player to come in as interim and show us at least what he could do, can he make Ineos bend to his will? I don't think so. I think Man United are in a Liam Rosenior Chelsea situation in that they've hired someone who the hierarchy believes he's our guy. He's a company man. Now, we all love Michael Carrick, and that's why pretty much every Manchester United fan is still happy he got the job, because he is a bit of a club legend. I think many people respect what he did in the Manchester United shirt. He is a lovely guy. He does have a good and strong character. I just wonder if it's strong enough for what Ineos have in front of him. So it's going to be a difficult situation for him. I just hope he gets time and support because the results are there, and I think if Manchester United are even pushing for Europe, even if it's not the Champions League next year, it's Michael Carrick. So give him time.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, isn't it? It always is incumbent on the ownership to provide what the manager needs. And you can have Luis Enrique as the manager, or you can ask Bruno Fernandes to be the manager. It's almost irrelevant if the ownership is not giving what the manager requests. Now, Michael Carrick doesn't seem to be the individual that strikes you as someone who's going to throw his toys out the pram. He respects the club, he understands the club, and especially when you've gone through over a decade now of such turmoil at Manchester United, it does really go a long way with fans to hear someone appreciate the club as much as they do. So I think that is why there's very little pushback on Michael Carrick. I think he's warranted the job with the performances in terms of the results and climbing up the table consistently. But that is the age-old question, isn't it? Are Ineos going to provide him with what he needs in order to push on? Because in order for him to improve, he needs to finish higher than third. So he set the boundaries, and very well, I think.
Well, yes and no.
I think within the remits that he's had, I think he's done as much as he can.
Yeah, but the third place finish, let's be realistic, is based on the fact that Man United played 40 games this year. They were knocked out in the first round of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. Next year, it's going to be a very different scenario because they're going to at least have 8 group games in the Champions League to deal with next year. Fingers crossed they get through at least one cup game domestically.
Don't
as
hold
well.
your breath, Hugh. Don't hold.
I'm not holding my breath. It's dependent on the draw anyway. But it's a different job. Moving forward, it is a different job for Michael Carrick. This is the one where you're an interim manager that doesn't feel like there's pressure. He actually didn't have to change his tactics or his personnel. There's no real rotation, given the fact that there was so many days between games for Manchester United at parts of the season. In fact, the midweek games for Man United didn't go that well. When we had to turn around in 2 or 3 days, Manchester United's performances dipped, But again, I don't blame Michael Carrick for that. He's working with a limited squad, a limited number of players he trusts. All I'm asking is for him as a manager to be able to say to Ineos, we need more, and for Ineos to respond.
So how does this end then for Michael Carrick in terms of Manchester United?
How does it end? I mean, I can't predict the future on that. I think there is enough of a good coach there. Given resources and given time, he could be seen as a good manager for Manchester United. He could win cups. He could get us closer to the Premier League title. I wouldn't envisage any manager. I wouldn't predict a single manager on their appointment. Are they going to be there for 5 years, 10 years or 15 years? Because we know what football's like, and most managers are there for 18 months to 2 years. So I'm not going to predict that for Michael Carrick. But in an ideal world, for me as a fan, I want to see the hierarchy at the board respond to him and say, we've made this decision. We could have gone out and scoured for a Marco Silva and Andoni Iraola, someone who has more experience in the Premier League but doesn't have the relationship with the football club. But we've made the decision to go with someone who's got that strong relationship with the football club, who we know we probably could have got a better coach in terms of CV. And in which case, how do we bridge that gap? We do it by supporting them with time, with money, with investment. That is on Ineos. My only reservation, as I say, was can Michael Carrick be the man to draw that out of them? Remains to be seen.
I do hope so, Hugh. It's just the merry-go-round, isn't it, of Manchester United? But look, it's Michael Carrick now, so I just hope that he can build on what he's done and progress.
Going back to Bruno Fernandes for a moment, just wanted to ask you one question about him, because it was after all the awards and stuff we've seen. I think the youngsters say glazing. He's been, there has been a lot of Manchester United, and maybe rightly so, praising him again and again and again. And he has been a very good servant to Manchester United. But is he a club legend at Manchester United now?
I just think at so many other clubs he would be deemed as a legend for breaking that particular record. But without using the age-old phrase, this is Manchester United, Hugh. And we're talking about, if we open up the Hall of Fame at Old Trafford, you have players like Eric Cantona, who won, I think, 4 league titles out of 5, and the only one he didn't was when, of course, he got the ban for the incident with the fan. You've got players like Roy Keane, who was an absolute integral piece of an unprecedented era of success for Manchester United. You have Paul Scholes, you have Rio Ferdinand, who people claim, and laud, probably rightly so, as arguably the best Premier League centre-back that we've ever seen. These are players who are not just recognised for being an incredible player individually, but they've also been key members to contribute to unprecedented success. And you can look at Bruno Fernandes and say his numbers are incredible. They're fantastic. He's always at the heart of so much that happens for Manchester United. But at a club like Manchester United, there needs to be success. At the upper echelons of the Premier League or European football, it's about silverware. Look at all of the critics Mikel Arteta has had, and for me, rightly so, in the last 4 or 5 years. There, and rightly so, is not a single critic because he got over the line in a Premier League. That's the weight trophies hold. And if you look back at it and you look at even just in comparison of Casemiro, who for the 3 years he was there, the first year was good, the final year was good, the middle year wasn't great at all. He's won the same amount of trophies as Bruno Fernandes has in, half the time? So I think we need to understand that we're talking about one of the biggest footballing institutions in the sport. So to put him in legend category doesn't quite sit right with me. Cult hero, I'll have the conversation.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. He's a cult hero. If a club like Manchester United could, that shows you where they've been during the time that he's been at the club, because cult hero was never really a thing. I mean, you had your little favourites and stuff, but there were so many players winning trophies, at least throughout our lifetimes at Manchester United, that you never really had time for cult heroes. But I think now we've reached that point. Listen, he's won a couple of trophies at Manchester United. He's done his thing from a personal perspective as well. You got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
Very, very talented footballer, of which Manchester United have had many. But they've also had many title winners. They've had European Cup winners. That list is pretty long. So, listen, if he can get himself on there with Michael Carrick, then I'll change my mind completely. Bruno, Man United, title winners next year. We shall see. Anil Kandola, thank you very much. Indeed, you're listening to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18+, gambleaware.com.
You're going down next season.
No, we're not going down, mate.
You're going down, mate.
No, even you know that. Even you know
Well,
that.
why am I saying it?
Well, because you know that's not going to happen.
What do you mean I know? I don't say things.
You know that's never going to happen.
Well,
we had this season was an absolute joke.
And what's going to change?
Well, everything's going to change.
Well, okay, name it.
Well, starting one with the manager. Right. The manager's come in and he's got results kept us up.
Right, okay.
He won't allow.
You said that last season.
No, we got Thomas Frank in the summer, and that was the wrong appointment. This is the right appointment.
Okay. But you said that last summer.
So everything will change.
You've got a new manager. You said that.
They won't allow that. They won't allow that to happen.
And you can't allow. You can't. You've not got a magic wand.
You can't sit there and say that Spurs are going to go down, mate.
I'm saying you now. You will be in a relegation battle this season.
Jace,
promise you,
mate. Shut up. What are you on about?
You're one of my favourites to go down.
What are you on about?
You can't just flick. Honestly, you've been in football all your life. You can't flick a switch and just think we're Spurs. You were Spurs last year, and you're Spurs this season.
Well, that's
you
absolute garbage.
have gone through the same
absolute
thing.
Garbage.
Yeah, it's
Teams
worse.
Finished 17th, and then they sort themselves out.
Did you get better or worse?
What? We've got more points this season.
Did you get better or worse?
Well, technically, we got better.
Did you get better or worse?
Factually, we got better. Because we got 30. We got 38 points last season. We got 41 this season. Good season.
See, this is the
good season.
This is the arrogance and the naivety of you, and you're just Spurs, mate.
No, but listen, I'm up for a laugh. Listen, I'm all up for a laugh, right? And it has been.
You're going down next season.
Oh, we're not. Oh, Jace.
You're going down, mate.
Jace.
You're going down.
Jace. Come on, mate.
EFL Roundup. Come on, mate. It's coming. All you've done.
I know you want to keep the narrative alive, right? Just for your own little self-worth.
What do you mean self-worth?
Oh, you want to keep it alive. You keep your little EFL roundups and keep your little Ange masks and keep all that garbage that you've done all season.
What do you mean garbage?
Load of old guff. All right, load of old guff. And it's only been good because Spurs have been crap. All right, so I know you want to keep it going, but you can't sit
24 months.
You can't sit there with a straight face and say Spurs are going to go down.
Right, next season, you're hearing this.
Get a full rundown of all the Championship's biggest teams in the Sports Bar. EFL Roundup with Jamie O'Hara on talkSPORT.
I'm going to put it out there now, right? I'm going to phone the boss, all right? In the break, I'm phoning the boss. Not the mid-boss, the big boss, all right?
Okay.
They're getting deleted from the archive.
What's going to get deleted?
Never to be seen again.
Is it-
EFL Roundup cannot be played on this station one more time, all right? Because Spurs are in the Premier League. So forget your little EFL...
Get ready to get the ultimate football fan winning feeling with talkSPORT Win.
We're into the final week with the 2026 FIFA World Cup almost here. Thanks to Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier. talkSPORT sending you and a friend to Dallas, Texas. You could be at England's first game against Croatia on June 17th with return flights, accommodation, spending money, tickets, and the official Adidas match ball, the Trionda, all thrown in. If you're ready to get that winning feeling, here is how to enter. Head to talksportwin.com or you can text WIN, W-I-N, to 83338. Text and online entries cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or you can call 0343 418 7260. Entries must be in by 4 p.m. on Monday. That's when you'll need to answer your phone. It's 18 plus, UK residents only. It's a talkSPORT promotion. Full terms and conditions at talksportwin.com. Remember, for your chance to win, text WIN to 83338. It's a complete stitch up. Our producer Connor has come in to talk to me for the final part of the programme. He's like, we're going to do England, we're going to do England. Then I hear North London forever, and I know that he is a big Arsenal fan. Must be desperate to talk Arsenal. It's the biggest week of your Arsenal support in life, really, isn't it?
Of my life in general, I think. Of my life in general.
Paris Saint-Germain at the weekend in Budapest in the Champions League final. You've won the Premier League. Tick that off. Now that you've gone through the door, you've run through it, you've reached the pearly gates of football divinity, winning the Premier League. How do you feel?
Oh, unbelievable! I think with the 3 second places, the manager saying at times he wasn't sure he believed. I think a lot of Arsenal fans weren't 100% sure. And to go again and to get it over the line, to build a proper squad in the summer, Andrea Berta, I have to hang my hat to him. Excellent recruitment. It even meant that when we had injuries, and we did have our fair share of injuries, we had the cover there. And in the end, we got it over the line and 7 points in the end. I mean, I know City lost the final game, so it makes it look a bit further on, but 7 points. Happy days.
Are you better than you were 2 seasons ago when you scored more goals, won more games, and got more points in the Premier League? Very entertaining Arsenal team where Ødegaard and Saka were ripping it up on a weekly basis. But you didn't get over the line in the Premier League, thanks largely to a much better Manchester City side 2 seasons ago. But actually, were City better then and were Arsenal better then as well? Or even though you're getting fewer points at the moment, are you a stronger side?
I think it's definitely an argument that City were better than, definitely. With us, I find it a strange one because you are right and those stats are correct. But defensively, we just look so much more solid this season. And I think when we were playing that beautiful free-flowing attacking football, don't get me wrong, it was beautiful to watch and we were scoring so many goals, but we weren't defending very well. And they always say defence wins you titles, doesn't it? So I think with that sort of foundation, I would say maybe we are slightly better now, maybe. But it's a tough one. It's a tough call because, like you said, the stats and the facts are there in front of you. And you make a very good point. But the trophies are now on our table this time around.
Expectation changes quickly in football, as we know. So you've already won the Premier League title now. And I guess the expectation is going to be that Arsenal stay in that conversation. Well, you've been in the conversation for 4 years, but you're at the other side of it for at least the next couple of years. You know, you are the team to beat. At least fans will expect that from Arsenal. Can you stay at that level if you don't improve that attack?
Oh, that's a good question. I think we do need to improve the attack, yeah. I think especially if you look at the left-hand side, you've got Trossard now, who is coming up to, I think it's 33. So, age isn't particularly on his side. Martinelli's been there for 7 years and we've seen him kind of slightly stagnate a little bit. And you do think potentially on that left-hand side, you can improve. And I think we probably will need to improve in that position. Gyökeres ended up with, I think it was 21 goals in all competitions. Not too bad, but we know that a lot of people were struggling with him. Is that something you potentially look at? And obviously you've got Saka on the right, so that speaks for itself. But I definitely think on the left-hand side, yeah, I could see if we could get somebody in on that. I heard we were linked with Morgan Rogers earlier. People like Krupi have been looked at. Obviously, Kvaratskhelia is the dream, but I doubt that's going to happen. Listen, we try and be realistic here.
Once he watches Arsenal win the Champions League,
well, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. But yeah, I think we probably do.
If Arteta can't repeat this success, because there are some. In fact, let's do the positive side of it. Can Mikel Arteta turn this into a bit of a dynasty now for Arsenal, an era where you're winning trophies season after season after season? It doesn't have to be the Premier League, but you're consistently lifting silverware.
I think definitely. I think with the amount of change that's happening in the Premier League, obviously you've got Pep leaving Manchester City. It looks like Enzo Maresca will be going in as talkSPORT understands. Chelsea, Xabi Alonso's gone in there now. Obviously United are still on the rebuild, but probably still a little bit too early for them. Liverpool, I don't really know what's happened there. I think we all thought that they were going to be, up there, and then they finished so drastically down the table. Aston Villa are strong, but do we ever really consider Villa as probably title contenders? Probably not. So I think there's a great chance for Arsenal to carry this on and kind of do what a Pep under Man City did. But you only really have to look back to last season where everyone kind of thought it's pretty much City's title to lose, and Arsenal might be up there. And then Liverpool came in out of nowhere and had that one season where they just, skyrocketed up and ended up winning the league. So there's always the opportunity that could happen. But I think with all this change going on, we look like the most settled team. The revenue that we're going to bring in this summer is going to be elite. We're going to be up there with, in the top 3 or 4 expensive clubs. So the money will be there. Players will be wanting to stay and players will be wanting to join. And I think if the manager's invested and if he signs a new deal, I absolutely do believe that we could, yeah.
Looking ahead to the biggest game of your Arsenal life against Paris Saint-Germain in Budapest Saturday night, live on Saturday afternoon, really, 5 o'clock start, live on talkSPORT. Are people underestimating this Arsenal team?
Yes. I think to say that we're underdogs, I think that's probably fair. I think I can understand that. PSG won it last year on their day. They play some of the best attacking football that, they're an absolute joy to watch. And they will cause so many problems for the Arsenal back line. You look at the right-back situation. If Timber's not fit, Ben White's out, so you're potentially putting Mascara there. That's pretty tough. But I think the way that an Arsenal team can nullify an attack, I think it's going to be a really, really interesting game. Because I think if we can nullify that PSG attack and they leave gaps and doors open, we can hurt.
Who exploits it? We spoke about the attack already. And there's part of me, honestly...
Saka?
I think I had a nightmare last night that Victor Gyökeres scored a hat-trick.
Well, this is the thing.
And Arsenal won the Champions League final.
Gyökeres makes a lot of movements. He might not be the quickest, but he makes a lot of movements. He pulls people out of the way. Saka can go in behind as well. Martinelli's got pure pace on his day. Depending on Eze or Odegaard, they can pick the passes. But I do think that front three of PSG, the way they interchange, I mean, if our back four is not on it 100%, they will score lots of goals.
If you can stop Vitinha dictating the course of the game, I think that could be the key point. I think when he makes them, and he can make them tick, he gets the passes through to that front three and puts them in the position where they're running at your goal. It could be a very long evening, but I think if you can stop him at source, if you can stop the ball at source, I think you've got a good chance. Anyway, I've been stitched right up. Conor Faherty, thank you very much indeed. And let me just tell you, because I did it because I was told to, my starting 11 for England's first game at the World Cup against Croatia, Pickford in goal. We know the back four, James Concert, Gahey and O'Reilly. The midfield three, I've gone for Anderson, Rice and Rodgers. Saka, Kane and Rashford up front, Bellingham on the bench. So there you go.
That wins the World Cup, no?
I hope so. Better after Thomas Tuchel picked this squad. Anyway, thank you very much indeed. Thank you to everyone that joined me throughout the evening. Thank you for listening. The Sports Bar coming up next. Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. Give them a call, 03717 22 33 44.
Interestingly, we just want to get your sort of on this whole players, seeing what people say about them and seeing what people write about them. And just quickly, this is what Gabby Agbonlahor had to say on a player yesterday on talkSPORT Breakfast. We were talking about Spurs and their staying up on the last day. And he had this to say about Vicario.
These players should have been walking around the pitch on their hands and knees saying sorry to the fans. And Vicario, I'm watching the game, I'm listening to the commentary with Gary Neville, who's spot on. This goalkeeper has done nothing in a Spurs shirt, been dreadful. And there's a clip of him offering out Seamus Coleman. Vicario, we've seen you punch, mate. You can't punch the ball. You're not going to be able to punch anybody. So we know you can't fight. So have